This is A's Cast Live, your comprehensive look at the Oakland Athletics.
And the pitch is swung on, hit the right field, hit deep. Whitefield going back at the track, over his head, and over the wall. Do you believe that?
And 29 other MLB clubs.
Ramirez with a drive to deep right, away back, goal!
Go Hayes! It's a bomb out there by the Rocks. And boy, oh boy, this third inning is now showtime.
It is a Judgian blast. All rise. Here comes the judge.
Join us as we take you inside the baseball universe, from humidors to spin rates to game-changing moments. We have you covered. Spend your afternoon with us next from the town, only on A's Cast Live. Here's Chris Townsend.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to A's Cast Live. This is going to be a special tribute show to the great Sal Bando. Truly one of the great third basemen of all time, truly one of the great Oakland Athletics of all time. And there's more than just stats. There's more to it when you look at his unbelievable career. And it's so sad. He lost his life to cancer. Just recently at our Hall of Fame inductions, he was put into the Oakland Athletics Hall of Fame, and rightfully so, because of his unbelievable career. Later would go on and stay in baseball as an executive. He'd play for the Milwaukee Brewers. Then he would be an executive for the Milwaukee Brewers. He would be their general manager. He's an Oakland A's Hall of Famer. He's on the Brewers Wall of Honor. He's a 4-time All-Star, a 3-time World Series champion. And the thing about Sal Bando that has always stayed with me, because for so many years, I've done these events with the different players who played in 72, 73, and 74, and let's just say the 70s era. And as these men get older and they're further and further away from these World Series, the fact that they all would still call him Captain Sal, that always stayed with me. That's how they viewed this man. He was their captain. He was their leader. Only 2 franchises in the history of baseball have won 3 World Series in a row or more. Yankees did it multiple times, and the Oakland Athletics. That's it. And not everybody's been a captain. He may be, and we'll check a little bit later, he may be the only captain of a team that won 3 straight World Series, where we actually give out the distinction that you are the captain of the team. But the fact that these guys, as they were getting into their 60s, when I first started dealing with a lot of these players, they were in their 60s. And then now into their 70s. And they always referred to Sal Bando as Captain Sal. Once you're in your 60s, you're so far away from these World Series, you'd think they wouldn't call him captain anymore. He's your buddy. You played ball with him. He's like your brother. He's captain, he's Sal Bando, but they still all referred to him as Captain Sal. Ray Fosse always referred to him Captain Sal. It tells you what he meant to the guys that he played with, that they viewed him as the leader. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years later, he's still their captain. Says a lot about the man. And yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh man, I remember Sal Bando. I was born in 1972. Sal Bando was done with Oakland in 1976. So no, at the age of 4, Commander Cody, I was not grinding me film and scouting reports on Sal Bando.
I remember Sal Bando more as the Brewers GM because I was born.
You weren't even alive when he was the Brewers GM.
Wasn't he GM from like 91 to 99 or something like that?
Let me see.
I think it was 91 to 99. He was the GM of the Brewers. I could be wrong.
99. Yeah, it was till 99.
So, yeah, I know more as the executive than the player because I was born in 1988.
Oh, yeah, because you were really grinding
Yeah.
GMs when you were a young teen.
Hey, I did watch a lot of Brewers baseball. They were in the Pirates division.
But, it's a day where we celebrate. We celebrate an incredible life, an incredible player, and what he meant to this organization. You just look at certain numbers and you just realize the consistency that this man had. And we're going to hear from Bob Costas as our buddy, the Mad Dog, Chris Russo, honored Sal Bando today, High Heat, MLB Network, and they brought on Bob Costas. And they talked about how, certain players at certain positions, just from a certain generation, everybody thinks of that guy and other people kind of not so much. And that player of that generation would be Brooks Robinson. Everybody thinks third base, they think Brooks Robinson. So, yeah, maybe Sal Bando was a little overshadowed by Brooks Robinson. Well, no one's team's won more than Sal Bando. In his last 8 years in Oakland, he averaged 23 home runs, 90 RBIs. Now, you got to remember, in that era of baseball, 23 dingers, 90 RBIs year after year after year is absolutely huge. Go to his Baseball Reference.
I know, I want to look up his MVP finishes.
Oh, he was always getting votes.
Captain Sal finished in the top 3 of MVP 3 times. He did it in 1971. He finished second that year. 1973, finished fourth. 1974, he finished third. So in that span from 71 to 74, he finished in the MVP in the top 4. We'll say top 5 of the MVP 3 out of the 4 years.
So this is what we have for you today. Coming up here in 5 minutes, a special treat. A few years ago, I did an interview with Sal Bando. We're going to replay that interview. At 1:30, we're going to have the Hall of Famer, Rollie Fingers, to remember Sal Bando. At 2 o'clock, former Oakland A's manager, now the current manager of the San Diego Padres, the man who wore number 6 in Oakland in honor of Sal Bando, because Sal Bando helped start his coaching career. Bob Melvin is going to be here at 2 o'clock. Gene Tenace, his teammate, at 2:30. David Feldman, our A's historian, at 3 o'clock. And the great Joe Rudi also at 3:30. So we'll have Bando coming up here, a replay of my interview that I did with him years ago. What year was it?
It was 2020 when we were doing the Wayback Series, when we replayed the games during beginning of COVID on NBC Sports California. It was you and Sal Bando. I think we had him and Rollie on the same day. We had everyone on that. That was when we did the Joe Morgan interview. We talked to a lot of legends back then, but that's when the interview was 2020, April of 2020.
Yeah, there's a good chance we did Joe Morgan's last public interview, because it wasn't long after we looked at the 1972 World Series and we had Joe Morgan on. It was Ken Korak, the voice of your A's, and myself interviewing Joe Morgan like a pregame show. And it wasn't long after that, unfortunately, Joe passed. I don't know how many interviews, if he did another interview after the interview he did with us. Those were fun times reliving the 70s, especially for a lot of us that weren't, I was a baby and some of you weren't alive. And truly to remember the greatness of these players, which unfortunately we're going to be doing these types of shows. But we need to make sure that we honor these greats. Because truly in the history of the game, for what they did, they didn't get their due. They have now started, as the books started coming out, documentaries, they've gotten more of their due now. But there's no question the Big Red Machine got far more publicity. Far more. They only won 2. But they got far more publicity than the Oakland Athletics did during that time. And then Yankees and Dodgers. The 80s was interesting because there was a hodgepodge of teams that won.
Cardinals, Royals, Orioles, Dodgers,
Phillies,
Mets,
Mets,
A's.
I mean, it was all over the board. of the teams that won. But in the 70s, the A's going to the playoffs in 71, winning 72, 73, 74, going to playoffs again 75. Charlie Finley screws it up, and who knows what it could have been if they would have stayed there. He went to Arizona State, and you think of what Arizona State meant to Charlie Finley and the Oakland Athletics? You know all the guys that came out of Arizona State, right?
Bando, Reggie.
Rick Monday.
First
number
one overall pick in the draft.
They were drafting out of Arizona State constantly. They love them some Sun Devils. But this will be a time that we remember the man that's known as the captain. And I'm glad that we got him into the A's Hall of Fame. And that's why it's so important for us to have an A's Hall of Fame, because we have so many great players. So many players that really you can't tell. We know they say, it's like right now we're dealing with, and we're not going to be dealing with a lot of Hall of Fame stuff today, but we're going to find out tomorrow who's going into the Baseball Hall of Fame, if there is anybody. And they always ask the question, can you tell the history of baseball without mentioning this player? Well, you cannot tell the history of baseball without mentioning this era of Oakland Athletics. I mean, the mustaches, the hair, the uniforms, the greatness, the pitching, the defense, the World Series titles, where no one wanted to believe. They're always the underdog. But I got to ask David Feldman, the A's historian, there's no way the Mets were the favorite in 73.
No, didn't they barely finish 500?
Yeah, they were terrible.
And what was that Mets that 1970? I mean,
Willie Mays.
Old man Willie Mays.
Willie Mays is 41, 40. He's about to retire.
I think their best offensive player was, if I'm not mistaken, without looking, Rusty Staub, I think, was their best player.
First baseman, Rusty Staub.
82 and 79.
Yeah, you cannot tell me this Mets team was favored.
Yeah,
I don't care if he had Tom Seaver and Kuzman and who else they had.
Their best player, actually, if you go by home
Tom
runs.
Seaver is best player.
Yeah, but you go by home runs, it was actually John Milner, their first baseman, and then Rusty Staub was 76 RBI, so he led the team in RBIs.
This is a really bad offensive team.
Willie Mays that year at age 42 played in 66 games. He hit 211, 6 home runs, 25 runs driven in, and he stole one base at age 42.
He was done. Now, the pitching, though.
Pitching's a lot better.
You got Seaver,
I heard
Kuzman.
of him. Heard of him. Matlack, heard of him. And Tug McGraw, he was no slouch in his day either.
I would say I was a much younger Tug McGraw.
28 years old.
Wow.
I mean, that's 28-year-old Tom Seaver. So, who only won 19 games that year.
Where is Tug McGraw from?
It's a great question. I don't know. I don't have the answer. I'm not even.
Vallejo.
Oh, same as E40, like we were talking about the other day.
The great Tug McGraw is from the East Bay. All right, we want to play this interview for you that we did in 2020. Before we get to the Hall of Famer Rollie Fingers, to remember his friend, the great Sal Bando. Here is my interview that I did with Captain Sal. Well, it is an absolute honor to have him on the program again and to talk about the great teams in the 70s. He's the captain, Sal Bando. Sal, thank you so much for taking the time down in Arizona.
Chris, it's a pleasure to be here and talk with you, and I look forward to the memories.
So it never gets old that your nickname's Captain, right? I mean, that's got to be pretty cool.
Well, it's an honor, and the guys were great with it, and so you learn to accept it, and I just made sure that I didn't lord it over them.
Well, we have Ray Fosse on every single week, and we're always bringing you up, and we know what you meant to these ball clubs. And I think one of the really cool things for A's fans, especially for someone like me that was born in 1972, I mean, I was a baby. I didn't get to see these games, and now we're going to be running these games on NBC California. Don't you think it's going to be really special for these younger A's fans to really realize how great you guys were?
Absolutely. And if they're really baseball fans, they'll understand the uniqueness and the consistency that those teams had. And it's really what's missing in baseball today is that consistency.
No doubt about it. I think really in all sports where you don't see guys stay on one team for a very long time, and you don't build that brotherhood, that kind of chemistry that you need to win championships. And, we always look back, and we've read the books, The Last Dynasty and the Charlie Finley book, and they talk about how you guys were fighting all the time, but you guys were like brothers.
Well, you know what? We had the common enemy, and that just brought us together, and we knew that the only way we'd enjoy this is to win.
And that common enemy was Charlie Finley?
Charlie Finley, exactly.
I mean, it's still crazy to think. I mean, of course, you ran the Milwaukee Brewers. You know what it's like to be an executive in this game. It's just hard to believe when you're looking back that a man was running a team in Oakland from Chicago.
By phone.
Yeah, he wasn't watching the games on his computer. He was. I mean, do you look back? How crazy is that?
I mean, when you think back, what saddens me is we could have continued on with winning teams after '74 season, but with him losing Catfish, breaking up the team, it was a shame to break up the dynasty like that.
When you think about what you guys were building in Kansas City, and then you make the move over to Oakland, at what point did you start looking around going, you know what, we're going to have a shot at this thing?
Well, I think after our first year in Oakland, I think we finished at 500, which was the first time the A's had really done that. And then the next year, 69, we really improved a great deal. Minnesota was still, the Twins were the team in our conference. But then we started to play them and compete with them and start to beat them. We knew we were on our way, and Reggie was coming into his own. Catfish was coming into his own. We had a stopper in Rollie. We had Campy. We had consistency in the field, and it was just a matter of doing it on the field.
And how big was it to finally get over the Baltimore Orioles? Because you had some great battles with them.
Well, we really did. The first year we got to playoffs was Detroit, and then the next 2 years it was Baltimore. And Baltimore had a team like ours. They had good pitching, timely hitting. So it came down to who's going to make the most mistakes. And fortunately for us, Baltimore made them.
And your first World Series, you're going up against what we would later know as the Big Red Machine. And Cincinnati was favored in the series. They had Pete Rose. They had Johnny Bench. They had Joe Morgan, Perez. They had a lot of great players. What was that like taking down the Cincinnati Reds?
Well, what people don't realize is we lost Reggie in the last playoff game, so we didn't have him. Darryl Knowles, our number one left-hander out of the bullpen, was hurt, and he didn't play the last part of the season. We didn't have him. So, it was amazing that we were able to compete with them. And then at that, once we got out there and we saw that, they're not that much better than us. In fact, they're not better than us. And our pitching kept us in the games. We had some timely hitting. Gene Tenace had a great series, got the MVP. He hit a bunch of home runs. It was just a matter of everybody doing something different.
Yeah, that's the one thing Ray Fosse has said when, because he comes over from Cleveland and, he always jokes that their season was over on opening day. And he comes over and he remembers being at spring training and Dick Green says to him, "Oh yeah, we're going to win the World Series. That's what we do." So yeah. After 72, you guys had that confidence that no matter who we play, you're going to win.
Well, I tell you, we had a situation in 73. I guess it was early in the year. We were around 500. And I think we were living on last year's laurels. And we were playing to win, but we didn't have the same intensity. And we had a team meeting, and Finley spoke. We all said something. But we said, we got to get back to where we were with the same intensity. And after that meeting, we just took off, ended up overtaking the teams that were in front of us, and went on to go to the World Series and beat the Mets.
Yeah, and that was a really, really good Mets team. Of course, Reggie was the MVP, as you said. Reggie's coming into his own. That was a great World Series, and Yogi Berra is the manager of the Mets. I mean, looking back at that World Series, what was it like taking on the Mets?
Well, you know what? We had a big distraction. That was the series where Finley wanted to fire Mike Andrews because he made 2 errors in the Sunday World Series game. Now he's appealing to the commissioner to put him on the disabled list. He's hurt. He's not hurt. He's been playing like that all year. And we really got upset with Charlie. And Bowie Kuhn, at the last minute, wouldn't allow it. And they let Mike Andrews stay on. And it was great for team morale. And we rallied around Mike. And the fans rallied around it. And again, another distraction in the World Series, but we overcame it.
And didn't the Mule come with you guys to New York?
Well, he probably did. Probably sat with Charlie, but I don't remember that. I just know we had enough problems with trying to stick up for Mike Andrews.
Yeah, that's the one thing about your group going through the years. They're always, I mean, as a player, what was it like? There was always something going on.
You know, I can remember in the clubhouse in the next year with the Dodgers, against the Dodgers. And the clubhouse guy comes up to me. We're having a practice before the series starts. And he goes, you know, he says, Sal, I'm nervous. I said, what are you nervous about? He goes, I keep hearing about all these fights and this and that you guys do. I said, believe me, it's not true. It's overrated. I no sooner got it out of my mouth, Blue Moon Odom and Rollie Fingers get in a fight, and they have to take Rollie to go get stitches in the back of his head.
You guys are fighting during the World Series.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
It had nothing to do with baseball. It was a personal thing, and one guy says one thing, the other guy objects to it. Here we go, and Rollie falls back, hits his head against the locker, has to go get stitches.
Oh, God. And as you were telling the clubhouse guy, don't worry about it.
Yeah. And he looks at me and says, get out of here.
And then the third World Series, of course, you guys in the New York Yankees are the only franchises in baseball history to win 3 in a row. The Yankees did it a couple times, but that's what makes you guys so special. You're one of only 2 teams. And now you're taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers, where you talk about consistency, the infield that they had. You look at the consistency, and that was a really good Dodger ball club.
Oh, it was a very good Dodger ball club. He had great pitching, good offense. But I think, I don't know who said it, but one of the guys said, you know, there's only 3 guys that could play on our team. They said myself, Reggie, and Catfish. And that really upset us because we felt we were man for man as good, if not better. And we went out and did it in 5 games.
Yeah, and Ray Fosse always tells us you guys only use 5 pitchers in that World Series, which is amazing.
Yeah, well, in those days, your starters were supposed to go more than a few innings. And we built it on that. You know, we had Holtzman and Blue and Catfish. I mean, those are 3 great pitchers right there.
Yeah, and I always like to bring it up because everybody knows about Catfish because he's a Hall of Famer. Everybody knows Vida Blue because he was a star and an MVP of Cy Young. But Kenny Holtzman won so many big games for you guys.
Yeah, Kenny was really he was the asset that really got us going. We got him in a trade. That gave us an established left-hander go with Vida. And left-handed pitching is hard to come by. So we had 2 starters that were above average. And we won a lot of games because of pitching.
And I think of your post-playing career. I before we start talking about you being a general manager, I remember you doing TV with Bob Costas. That had to be a pretty big deal for you.
Well, my first year after retiring, NBC asked me to do the backup game of the week. And so I did, and I really enjoyed it. What I didn't enjoy is I'd have to jump on a plane Friday night, get to where we're playing Saturday, and if I could get a flight out Saturday night, I'd get home. And here I was, I just retired from baseball, and I'm traveling more than ever. So it was great doing it with Bob Costas, but I really wasn't looking at it as a career.
And then you take over as general manager of the Milwaukee Brewers. What was that like for you running a franchise?
Well, it was difficult because we were in the era of small market, big market. We were a small market. We couldn't pay the salaries or go after free agents the way other teams did. My first year, we had a great year and lost out the game of the year to win our division. Then we lost 11 guys to free agency. We couldn't sign, and we had to rebuild. And it's a slow process, and if you don't have money, it's difficult. But we got a little bit better and a little bit better, and I did that for 8 years.
Yeah, that's really when we started to see cable money come into the game. Then we started to see the new ballparks, and it really changed the finances of Major League Baseball. I mean, the cable money changed everything.
It really did. And, if you don't have money, you can't get the better players, and you're leaning on your farm system to produce them, but it's not going to produce all of them. And so you need to be able to add guys from different organizations, and it was hard to do.
Let's end on this. Bob Melvin, our skipper, as you know, credits you a lot for his career, his post-playing career. And he was a big fan of yours as he was growing up watching the A's win. And he now wears number 6 to honor you. What does that mean to you?
Well, it means a lot. I'm so honored by Bob, who was such a great guy and really knows his baseball. He doesn't get enough credit for how sharp he is and how he's made the A's a contender year in and year out. So I'm very honored. I'm humbled. And Bob is one of my very favorite people.
Yeah, we will have Bob Melvin joining us just a little bit later here on A's Cast Live to honor his good friend Sal Bando. And you can make the case. They should retire number 6. They should retire number 6 because of Sal Bando, and they should retire number 6 because of Bob Melvin. Let's not forget, Bob Melvin is the winningest manager in Oakland A's history. Sal Bando is a 3-time World Series champion with the Oakland Athletics and the captain of those World Series teams. Both these men did great things with this number. Should it ever be worn again? You can honor them both. Real easy.
I know Bob. I remember Bob asked me at the winter meetings, did anyone wear number 6 last year? Well, Bob, we had 64 players last year, but no one wore number 6. So I agree with that. I think retire it. I think it should be up there with everyone else, with Stu and Ricky and Reggie. You could have
Captain Sal's family there, just like we did for the Hall of Fame. Have Bob Melvin and his family there, knowing how close the two of them were. Bob Melvin wore 6 to honor Sal Bando. It really is a no-brainer, just like Spirit Week.
Yeah, Spirit Week starts today and tomorrow. All the A's Spirit Week ticket deals will kick off on Tuesday, tomorrow, with a buy one, get one free offer for opening day tickets. The A's open the season on Thursday, March 30th versus the Angels. Additional A's Spirit Week deals include discounted ticket prices for select A's promotional days, which we went over the other day. That's drone shows, firework nights, bobbleheads, Tony Kemp poster. Tickets that include a chance to watch batting practice from the field, and fee-free tickets. On Saturday, January 28th, tickets for all 2023 regular season games will go on sale. More importantly, Friday, there's a happy hour at Plank in Oakland and Jack London Square from 4 to 6.
What?
We will be there.
What?
Yeah, that's Plank Friday. That's this Friday. It's January 27th, 4 to 6. Jack London Square, Plank, 4 to 6. We'll be there for happy hour. I believe Ken Korak is supposed to come by.
What?
That's what he told us the other day, unless he's lying.
Happy hour with Ken Korak at Plank?
It'll be a good time. We haven't been to Plank in a while. Last time we went there was 2019, where we watched people go bowling.
Well, we really haven't been, as a show, haven't really been anywhere in a long time.
That is also true.
We've been to the Chicken Pie Shop in Walnut Creek. That's it, right?
If we don't count San Diego and fantasy camp and spring training.
No, like in the Bay Area place,
just,
it's just people are still doing shows from their homes.
That's also true. That's also true.
We are going to get out this season, I can guarantee you. We are going to get out in the East Bay, South Bay, get to more places to see people this year because it's been ridiculous. But yes, Plank, Spirit Week. Give it again.
The happy hour will be Friday, January 27th, this Friday, from 4 to 6 at Plank, which is in Jack London Square. We'll be there. Ken Korak. I believe we're doing bingo with Amelia. A lot of cool stuff is going on this Friday at Plank, so we'll see you there from 4 to 6 for happy hour.
And who doesn't like happy hour?
This kind of drinks, I mean, sign me up. Although I did try, because I'm going to call Rollie, I did try the non-alcoholic beer that Eno recommended yesterday, the Hop Refresher.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, pleasantly surprised. It was very good, refreshing. Didn't taste it. No calories, no beer taste, it tastes like a sparkling water with a little bit of hops in it.
Who is the genius that created happy hour?
That's a great question.
Somebody created happy hour. Somebody said, okay, here's what we need to do. We need to get people in before dinner. People are getting off work. People want to come out. They want to get a bite to eat. They want to have a few drinks. They want to relax. We're not going to do it on Saturday and Sunday because people aren't working. We're going to do it Monday through Friday. Somebody made that executive decision, and somebody created happy hour. Whoever that person is needs to go into some type of Hall of Fame.
I agree with you. It was a brilliant idea.
I don't know what Hall of Fame they'd go into. Mankind Hall of Fame. Is there a Mankind? Greatness of Mankind Hall of Fame? At least the Smithsonian in D.C. They got to be honored. I wonder if we can actually look that up. I don't know. It may not even be this country who discovered happy hour.
We could look when we get Rollie on. I'll look it up.
And we're going to be bowling and happy hour. Now you're throwing bowling into the mix.
And there's bingo, I believe, as well with Amelia.
And bingo. Plank is such a cool location.
Yeah, I mean it's right down from our office, which I mean no one cares, but it's cool. It's easy for us. Again, no one cares.
You know, right there, you guys should just look into the mirror there and see what it's like to work with Cody. In Cody's mind, everything is about Cody.
A good producer always brings it back to himself.
No. Everything's about Cody. It was like when I was in that there was a horrible accident right where the Coliseum is, where the 66th off ramp is off 880, and we were not moving. Like it was really bad, like ambulances and really bad. I didn't go back to check to see how bad it was, but there's a good chance people did not survive it. And we were having this end of the year party at the office in Jack London, and I'm sitting there, and there's no way I'm gonna be there. I mean, my car did not move on the freeway for literally 20. You just sat there and you went, hey man, this is bad. Fire engines. I mean, you just knew this is bad. I'm happy it's not me. What was your response when I told you what was happening?
Then I say something like, you should have taken Bart.
I took Bart and I had no problem. Literally, people probably lost their life. I'm trying to explain to you. I sent you pictures. This is really bad. His response is, oh, I took Bart. I didn't have a problem. Literally about him. Jack London Square, great location. Come see us. Well, it works for us because our office is right there. Works for me. You really, it's your life. And it's a skill that you are always, you're going to worry that you're taken care of. It's about you.
I'm not Lex Luger, the narcissist, but I'm pretty close.
Hey, it's to hell with everybody else as long as you're good.
By the way, Rollie, I'm going to try calling him. He read my text message now, so let's see if he answers this time.
Rollie Fingers is 76 years old. Steubenville, Ohio. I mean, I've made the case here, Rollie Fingers, if you look at the numbers and the innings, I know everybody universally says Mariano Rivera, greatest closer of all time. You really got to look at the volume of Rollie Fingers, the amount of innings that he gave you. It's hard to compare the two because Rollie has everything. It is amazing. He's a 3-time World Series champion. He's a 7-time All-Star. He's the American League MVP in 81, Cy Young Award winner in 81, World Series MVP 1974, 4 times Rollade's Relief Man of the Year, 3-time MLB save leader. His number 34 is retired with the A's and the Brewers. He's a baseball Hall of Famer. He's an Oakland A's Hall of Famer, and he's on the Milwaukee Brewers Wall of Honor. Rollie, it's Chris Townsend with the Oakland Athletics. I know it's a tough day having you on today. Remember, you're a good buddy of yours, and of course, your guys' captain of truly 3 of the great teams we've ever seen in Major League Baseball history, Captain Sal Bando. Thank you for coming on.
My pleasure.
You know, when you look back at him as a teammate, I've mentioned that you guys always referred to him as Captain Sal. Even as you guys got older, it was always Captain Sal. Just talk about what he meant to you and those teams.
Well, he was a huge part of that team. We, when I got to the big leagues, he'd already been to the big leagues for probably a couple of years. I think he played the last year in Kansas City with the Kansas City A's, and then when we moved to Oakland in '68, he was on that ball club. I think in '69 we had like a team meeting, and we wanted to vote for a captain of the team, and most of those guys on that ball club in '69 were, I mean, we were only in the big leagues probably a year or two at the most. I mean, we were all young, and he'd already been there. He was our starting third baseman. He was a big part of our offense, and he was smart. He knew the game. He knew all the hitters. If anybody had a question on where to play a certain player, they would look to him. We all voted him our team captain, and that's how it started.
You know, in baseball, we don't really talk about guys being captain. It's very rare. It's something that we see in football, we see in basketball, we'll even see it in hockey where they're wearing the C, but baseball's never really, you know, at least in recent times, you don't really hear much about a captain. You know, how important was it to have a guy that you called the captain of the team?
Well, someone to look up to. He'd already been in the big leagues, and like I said, we were all younger. He would maybe sometimes as a captain maybe take the lineup card up to home plate, talk to the umpires, that sort of stuff. He was just there for just about everybody on the team. If they had any questions concerning anything, you know, about the game, or like I said, with other teams coming in, I'm sure he studied scouting reports on where the other teams' players hit balls, where they play them on defense. So he was always constantly moving guys in the outfield. He would get signals from the manager if maybe to move the center fielder over into right center instead of left center or whatever. But he was more in contact with the manager on making changes on the defense on the field.
And just talk about his consistency in the middle of that order year after year, the power, the RBIs, it was just consistent.
Yeah, he never really hit. I don't think he ever hit over 300, but he was a solid maybe 280 hitter. Always was right around 20, 25 home runs a year. Always high in RBIs because I think he hit in the third slot in front of Reggie. Always had guys on base and always seemed to get those big hits for RBIs. Consequently, I think he led our team in RBIs 3 or 4 times over Reggie. And even though Reggie 4 home runs, Sal was cleaning up the bases in front of him. So he was a good clutch hitter, good RBI man, good solid third baseman at third base defensively. He can make all the plays. If he got his glove on the ball, he usually caught it.
Yeah, that was the hallmark of your guys' team, pitching and defense. You know, when you first get to Oakland and you show up and these guys have been together, they were a young group in Kansas City. They come to Oakland. What were your first impressions of everybody when you first showed up?
Oh, I showed up at the end of the '85 or the when was it? End of the '68 season, and I only got into one game, but was my first stint in the big leagues. The last month of the season, they call up players from the minor leagues. So we didn't really have a great team, I don't think, in '68. I can't even remember if we even finished 500, but we didn't have a really. We were just starting to play together as a team. Then in '69, when I made the ball club, we had a good pitching staff, and we had Catfish Hunter. I don't think Fight of Blue was there yet.
Not yet.
We had, I think Jim Nash was there, Luke Krause, Chuck Dobson. Pitching was not that bad, but we always had a great defense. Up the middle, the infield we have with Camp and Harris and Dick Green doing double play balls, and Sal at third. In the outfield, we had Reggie in right field. Sometimes in center, they would move him back and forth. And Dave Duncan was our catcher. So we had a halfway decent team. And then '69, I think we finished in second place, somewhere in there. I think in 1970, we finished in second place behind Minnesota again. Minnesota was always our rival. We always had problems with them. And then in '71, Vita Blue joined us, and that was a big help getting another starting pitcher in there. That year of Cy Young MVP player. That kind of solidified our whole lineup. By then we'd already played together for 3 years, so we knew what to expect of each other. We had basically the same lineup. And then we got Kenny Holtzman in a trade from Chicago, and that was our left-hander. So we had 2 left-handers, 2 right-handers in our starting rotation, and that helped. And these guys were, Catfish and Kenny Holtzman and Vita Blue. They were going out there and completing 45, 50 ball games a year, and that's unheard of nowadays. So, we had guys that knew how to pitch, and that's what we won on. We didn't go out and, kill teams, 15-2 or anything. We were winning the 3-2 ball games, 3-1 ball games, 4-2 ball games. We didn't score a whole lot of runs, but we always seemed to be winning.
When you think back, and Charlie Finley's paying you guys to grow mustaches, and you guys are having long hair, and you're completely different than the other teams in Major League Baseball. You're starting to win. You're going to the postseason in '71. Was there a point when you looked around and went, you know what, this is a really cool place to be? This is a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. When you start winning, it's always fun. And, we weren't drawing a whole lot of people in Oakland at the time. The ballpark really wasn't a good ballpark to play in for fans. The fans' seats were set way too far back from the field. There was a lot of foul territory. The weather at night in Oakland was normally always cold, almost like San Francisco at night, freezing cold. It was a great ballpark to pitch in because it was always damp. The fences were, normal, but the ball didn't travel real well there. And like I said, they had a lot of foul territory, so you could probably pick up 10 to 15 extra outs a year on just foul balls being caught. So, as far as that goes, but it wasn't a real good ballpark for the fans to watch a game. And I think that was, and Charlie tried everything. I think the biggest thing he had was the Monday night half price nights. We usually bring in pretty good crowds on Monday night when he charged half price.
I just can't even imagine in modern day baseball a Charlie Finley. It would just be crazy. I've heard a lot of different things from a lot of different guys that were your teammates about him. Just what was your relationship like with Charlie Finley, and just that time working for the man? And he's running the team in Chicago, for God's sakes. It's a crazy story.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get along too good with Charlie. Yeah. I had in '72, I was making $29,000 in 1972, the first year we went to the World Series. And I had a couple of good seasons prior to that. And I went to the World Series, and we beat the Reds in 7 games. And I won 1 game, and I saved 2 other games. I saved games 1 and 7. And so that winter, I was expecting a halfway decent raise. And he sent me a $1,000 raise. And so I was so upset you have no idea. I called him up. I told him what I thought of his raise. I slammed the phone down, and I did not talk to Charlie Finley from that day till the time I left in '76. I said, I got an agent. I says, you deal with this guy because I can't. So that's when I got an agent. I didn't talk to Charlie for 4 years.
Wow. I mean, the stories are unbelievable. And then, of course, you got some time with Sal Bando because you went from Oakland to San Diego and then to Milwaukee. You had a little bit of time with Sal in Milwaukee, correct?
Yeah, 81, the third baseman when I got there in 81, the year I won the Cy Young and the MVP in Milwaukee. So because that 81 was his last year in baseball, then he went from there. He went into the front office with Harry Dalton as the assistant to the general manager. So because he knew all the players, so he went into that role. I think he stayed doing that for maybe 2 or 3 years, something like that, and then I think he just got out of the game altogether.
Well, yes, actually, Sal was a GM, and he was with him till about '99 in that role. Did you?
Oh, okay. Well, that was I thought.
Did you see maybe that when you played with him, and obviously towards the end of his career with Milwaukee, that this guy might make a pretty good executive?
Yeah, I thought maybe he would be. I could see Sal being a manager, is what I could see, because he knew the game really, really well. I could see him being a field manager because everybody that I played with and played with him respected the heck out of him. I mean, because of his knowledge of the game. So I think he would have been a great field manager, but I didn't think he wanted to put the uniform back on and do the traveling. I think he wanted to just stay home and do, like I said, work in the front office. He didn't have to jump on an airplane and go on road trips. So I think that was one reason why he went into the front office.
Before we let you go, tomorrow we're going to find out if anybody is getting inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Obviously, you're one of the great players of all time. You have your plaque there in Cooperstown. What's it like the day before when you're either going to get the call or you're not going to get that call? What's the day? These guys that are waiting, what are the butterflies like? What's the day? I mean, for you was what, 1992? What was the day before like?
91 was the first time I was on the ballot in 91, and it's a little nerve-wracking. You don't know what to do. You don't know, well, do I call my friends up and have them come over and have a party? And then if I don't get in, do we still have a party? Or you don't know what to do. So I think in 91, I was just with my family, and I had a few friends over at the house. We didn't really do anything, just wait around. And we knew that if we got in, the call would come in right around like 6 o'clock or something in the evening. And it got to be 6:45, and I said, I don't think I got in, people. So I found out later that I had missed by 30 votes getting in 91. But yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking not knowing, because I wasn't even thinking about the Hall of Fame. First 4 years I was out of the game. I wasn't thinking about going in. I had nothing really to gauge myself on previous relief pitch. The only other relief pitcher in the Hall of Fame was Hoyt Wilhelm, and he was a knuckleballer, and he started a lot, and he had 240 saves or something like that. I'm not even sure the amount, but I didn't know if my stats were good enough to get into the Hall of Fame. Well, I missed by 30 votes in 91. So in 92, I was a part owner of a restaurant in San Diego. So I just said, hey, if everybody go down to the restaurant that I'm part of, we'll have a little party down there just in case. So, and the Hall of Fame had called me up before, wanted to know where I was going to be just in case I did get in. So I gave them the number of the restaurant, and I think it was around 6 o'clock I got the call. And then it was a real party.
Yeah.
I had to go right straight from there, about 2 hours later, to the airport, fly to New York for a press conference. So, yeah, it was a fun time.
Well, I think about certain positions. Third base is definitely one of them when you talk about Sal Bando, but closer. A lot of people are hoping that Billy Wagner gets in. Obviously, you were one of the early ones that kind of busted it open to allow other guys to get in to see the true value of the position. Just talk about
Right.
just how unrepresented the closer position is in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Well, I've been a fan of Billy Wagner for the last 4 or 5 years. I don't understand why he's not gotten more votes. I mean, he's got 40 some saves or something like that, and he's got a microscopic, I think, 2.3 ERA. I mean, lots of strikeouts, threw the ball hard, left-hander, which you don't see a whole lot of left-handers in the Hall of Fame as relief pitchers. So I don't think there are any. I think they're all right-handed pitchers. So, but I think Billy Wagner is certainly a definite candidate for the Hall of Fame. And another guy that I thought that would have gotten in years ago was Al Oliver with the Pittsburgh Pirates. He's got like 2,800 hits and a 305 lifetime batting average, and he doesn't even come close. And I don't know why that is. As I had to pitch against him, and he could flat hit. So that's one other guy that you might want to look at for him getting in. But I don't know if he's on the lister anymore or not. No idea.
You know, the World Series changed your life. The MVP and the Cy Young Award changed your life. You've told us before that the mustache changed your life, obviously. But how much did going into the Baseball Hall of Fame and getting that plaque in Cooperstown, how much did that change your life?
Oh, being able to write your name and then underneath your name write HOF, that's a game changer. Everybody wants to meet you. They want to be around you. They want to get your autograph. Collectors like getting Hall of Fame signatures on baseballs, old baseball cards. So, consequently, after I got in, I was doing card shows all over the country. Every weekend, I would do a card show somewhere. And then I would do it for maybe a year and a half. It was busy. And then the new guys would get in, and then they would want those new guys' autographs. And so it would kind of slow down. So over the years, it slowed down quite a bit. I might do maybe 2 or 3 card shows at the most now a year. So it slows down because everybody's got my autograph. So, but I still get mail in the mail for autographs in my PO box.
Well, I'll tell you what, you know how much this Oakland A's fan base absolutely loves you. Thank you so much for the time remembering Sal Bando. What a wonderful man. What a great teammate, the captain of your guys' teams. You be well, and let's talk soon during the season.
All right, great. Thanks for being. It was nice to be on the show.
Take care, Rollie. The great Hall of Famer, Rollie Fingers, who, once again, if you look at the numbers, if you really want to delve into the numbers, I'm not crazy, am I, Commander? We've done it. You can make a case he's the greatest reliever of all time.
Yeah, we've done it because it was everyone talking about Mariano Rivera and how great he was.
And he was. I mean, obviously he was. But, I mean, we're talking about a guy who won an MVP, won a Cy Young Award, had the volume that, you look at the two guys that set kind of the standard for just getting the save, right? That it changed. Really, I mean, as Dennis Eckersley did the same thing of winning the MVP, winning the Cy Young and doing that, but it was Mariano Rivera and Trevor Hoffman who put the numbers out of just put it, because the thing with Eck was that he was a starter for so long. First it was Trevor Hoffman broke the record, then it was Mariano Rivera, and they're so high up there. The award now for the National League Best Closers, Trevor Hoffman Award, the American League, it's the Mariano Rivera Award. So those two guys, but they were one-inning guys. Neither one has even close to the volume that Rollie Fingers had.
No, Mariano Rivera had 652 saves, but in his career, he had 1,283 and 2/3 innings pitched. Rollie had 341 career saves, but he had 1,701 and 2/3 innings pitched in his career. That's what, if my math's correct, that's almost 500, almost 5. It's like 400 and something more. than Mariano Rivera, and he also appeared.
That's like seasons. He pitched seasons more than Mariano Rivera,
and he also appeared in less games. Rollie appeared in 944 games. Mariano Rivera appeared in 1,115.
I mean, the amount of innings. I mean, this guy came in and closed out 3 innings and did it in playoff games and World Series games. Mariano Rivera, and you know what? Things change, right? And I'm not saying anything bad about Mariano Rivera. I'm just saying you need to look about how they played the game at that point when Rollie was playing and look at his value. It's unbelievable. It's kind of off the charts. Bob Melvin is going to join us. He just texted me. We're going to have Bob here in a couple minutes. What do you think about that? I think, and we'll ask Bob about it. And Bob is going to be very, he's very humble and he's going to talk just about Sal. But when you've got Sal Bando, 3-time World Series champion, captain of the A's teams that won 3 straight World Series, and you got a guy who is a Bay Area guy who managed the ball club and has the most wins as a manager in Oakland A's history. I mean, number 6 for not only Sal Bando, but Bob Melvin. I mean, I don't want to say no-brainer, but it's kind of no-brainer to retire.
Who was the last player to wear number 6 for the A's?
Hell, I don't know.
That'd be, we were talking about Arizona. He went to Arizona State, I believe. The great Travis Buck.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
It was Travis Buck, and then Kurt Suzuki wore it for a year. Kevin Ginter, Mike Rose, Jose Guillen for 1 year. Adam Pyatt, Sal Fasano, Tony Phillips. There's a whole bunch of guys.
Sal Fasano. Sal Fasano hit one of the biggest home runs in the history of Oakland A's history. Do you remember when he broke the glass on Mount Davis?
Trying to remember.
It was a bomb. I don't even know a year. What years did he play for?
He played for the A's in 2000, so it must have been in 2000. Our good friend and former A, now manager, Torey Lovullo.
Torey Lovullo. We're going to have to. Torey, thinking about retiring number 6.
Torey, when I think of great Oakland A's who wore number 6, I think Sal Bando, Bob Melvin, and you.
We're going, seriously, we're going to have to, when we talk to Torey, maybe we'll see him down spring training, manager of the Arizona Diamondbacks, big friend of the program, say, Torey, you're going to have to take the day off and come to Oakland.
The Hawk wore number 6. That's Hawk Harrelson, not Andre Dawson.
Yeah, that Hawk never played for us. Ken the Hawk Harrelson fell off the donkey in Kansas City in front of the New York Yankees pitch. Did you ever hear that story?
Yeah.
Who told us? Was that Fosse?
I think it was Fosse. I mean, Hawk told us some good stories. I think Fosse told us that one.
So can you imagine you're riding the donkey around in Kansas City and the donkey bucks you and you fall on the ground right in front of like Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris, and they're all just sitting there looking, going, but they, Hawk Harrelson, everybody loved him.
Whitey Herzog wore number 6 for the A's.
Whitey Herzog?
Yeah. Right here.
Really?
Where was it at? Whitey Herzog in 1960.
As a player?
What was Whitey doing then? Let's see. In 1960, Whitey Herzog.
Because my grandfather managed the A's in 1960.
He was on the Kansas City A's.
Did you know that?
I think you told me before.
Yeah. My grandfather, who I've mentioned was the MVP in 1947, managed the A's in 1960.
Yeah, 1960, Whitey Herzog was 28 for the Kansas City A's.
Go look at the 1960 Kansas City Athletics.
1968 A's, they were 58, 96, and 1.
And managed by who?
Bob Elliott.
I have just spilt all over myself.
Let's just go through the team. See what
we got to call
Bob. Yeah, let's see if there's anyone on that
Melvin.
Team. Dick Williams on the team. Herzog. See if there's anyone else that became a manager.
Was Dick Williams any? Well, is that manager Dick Williams or just some other Dick Williams?
Oh, let's see. Yeah, no, it's the Dick. It's the because it says Hall of Fame manager. So that's Dick Williams.
He had 12 bombs that year.
Well, let's see what pitchers are on that team. Anyone? Don Larson.
Do you know who's not on that team?
1960.
Who's not on that team?
Joe DiMaggio.
Who's not on that team?
1960.
It's the reason why my grandfather only lasted 1 year.
I remember you telling me who it was, and I can't remember. Who was it?
The guy was traded to the New York Yankees. Come on, baseball historians, where are you?
Traded to the Yankees?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be Roger Maris.
Roger Maris was traded to the Yankees as my grandfather was driving from San Diego with my grandmother, my mother, and my aunt. They were driving to Kansas City for my grandfather to be the manager of the Kansas City Athletics. And, of course, when my grandfather arrived, his best player, Roger Maris, had been traded to the New York Yankees, which then my grandfather got into a fight with old Charlie Finley. And then after 1 year, my grandfather told Charlie Finley to stick it, and my grandfather went and got on the first staff of the
Don't know.
Angels.
Oh,
the Halos.
The California Angels.
My grandfather was on the first staff ever of the Angels as the big club, not the AAA team, the big club when they became the big league team. We're calling Bob Melvin.
Oh, we got Bob Melvin.
Bob Melvin, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you. Thank you so much for stopping by, as we knew that we were going to honor the great Sal Bando, and we were running an interview earlier that I did with him in 2020 during the COVID year when we were going back and replaying the 72, 73, 74 games. And in that interview, we mentioned you wearing his number 6 and honoring him, and he talked about your guys' relationship. It was a no-brainer to have you on today to honor somebody who meant so much to you, not only on the field, but off the field.
Yeah, I mean, it's where do you even start with, what he's meant to me? On a personal level, he literally spoon-fed me and held my hand through, my introduction into coaching, to scouting, to, and then being a resource for me. Professional level, obviously gave me my start, gave me my first job, gave me my first managing job in the fall league, gave me, everything to this point, and just somebody that I've gotten so close to over the years that, this was a real stinger to hear that he passed. I knew he was struggling. He's had such great support from his family, but this is just one of the most instrumental and key people in my life.
Yeah, I'm very glad that we got him into the A's Hall of Fame before he passed, and his family and his grandkids got to see it. Obviously, we'll talk about his playing career, but why do you think there was that connection between you two that it sparked basically everything you've had in your post-playing career? I mean, it really is an unbelievable relationship.
It really is. And I don't know. I mean, I tried to get into the Milwaukee organization after my playing days, and this would have been in 1996, and actually had a relationship, a little bit of a family relationship with the Selig family, and actually wrote him a letter. And I knew Phil Garner was there managing, and I had played with Phil in San Francisco, and was hoping that would give me a little bit of an in. But the minute I got there and was able to interview with Sal, he kind of took me around and showed me around the complex and talked about what he wanted me to do. From that point on, it just felt like somebody I've known my whole life. So, very, very few relationships that, come together that quickly and last so long is what I've had with Sal.
And then once you are manager of the Oakland Athletics, we'll never forget it when you came in and you wore number 6 to honor Sal Bando. Was that just a no-brainer once you got the job?
No-brainer. And even thought about it before I was even hired. Talking to Billy before I was hired there, I told my family that if I had the opportunity to do that, I was wearing Sal's number. I didn't know who had it at the time or if anybody did, but it was something that came to mind very quickly. And I can't tell you how honored I was to be able to wear that uniform, that number, and growing up and watching him play, the tenacity he played with, just the gamer and the winner and everything that he, the way he was, it was just an absolute no-brainer for me. And then, obviously with my background with him in Milwaukee, it just felt like the right thing to do.
You think about the honor of becoming a captain of a team. And we just had Rollie Fingers on, the Hall of Famer, and we were talking about, it's something we see in football and basketball, especially hockey too, but we don't see that a lot really anymore in baseball. You say, this guy is the captain of the team. But Sal, and you grew up watching it, was just the perfect guy for that crazy group of A's that, oh, by the way, won 3 straight World Series titles.
Yeah, and it's a lot of pressure, and I think that's why you don't see it as much now. There's enough pressure on guys and players to do what they do, but to have that moniker too, man, you have to bring it every day. You have to be the same guy every day. You know, and that's who Sal was as a player, as a GM, as anything he did in life. That's just who he was. So, I mean, you look back at his years, and I know it's been a while since then, but this is Derek Jeter type captain stuff. This is 3 World Series in a row. This is the greatest team in Oakland A's history. And you look at the characters on the team, and you know, not only you have to be a captain, but you have to be a captain of that crew too. This is just one of the great, you know, just great players, really of all time, certainly in Oakland A's history. And man, it certainly is not lost on me.
Yeah, you think about consistency, and as a manager, when you have a player, you know, obviously the value of a guy being a captain, being the leader, but a guy who brings just offensive and defense consistency. For his last 8 years in Oakland, 23 home runs, 90 RBIs. That's what he averaged. What does that mean to you as a manager when you know year after year you're getting that constant quality production from that spot on the defense and in the lineup?
Yeah, it is. It's huge, and it's like I told you before, with it being a captain, there's a lot of pressure to that. You have to bring it. You have to put up those type numbers. You have to be that guy in the clubhouse every day, that guy on the field every day in a blowout that's still playing hard, in a game where you're down by 5 runs, you're still running hard down the line. I mean, you have to be that guy, and he always was. And then you look at the numbers on top of that, and what, you know, how he was able to put together all those numbers, you know, every single year with a group of fellows in that lineup that, you know, brought some numbers too. So, yeah, it's very difficult to do, and he made it look easy.
How great was your time in Oakland from a standpoint of growing up and watching those teams, and then when those teams would show up and we'd honor them, these are guys that you grew up idolizing and watching?
Those were some of my favorite days, and really I would get nervous before I would go out there, and I'd always get out there really early to make sure I got to say hi to everybody. I was looking at a picture yesterday in one of the New York papers where I was shaking Sal's hand, and you know, Joe Rudi was out there, and you know, Vida was there, and looking at the looks on all those guys' faces, and really kind of that and watch that. It was very surreal moments for me, and ones that I miss dearly.
Well, we truly appreciate your time, and I know what Sal meant to you professionally and personally. I do think that we should retire number 6 because of what Sal Bando did for this organization as a player and a captain, the greatness. And then I also think because you wore the number and no one's won more games as an Oakland Athletic manager, I think it'd be very fitting. I hope to someday we have that retirement party because I think you both deserve it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But I'm just honored I was able to wear the number. And if they did retire it and I was able to be the last guy to wear that number, it would have even more sentiment for me. But I agree with you. You know, there aren't too many guys like the captain, and you know, three World Series consecutively under your belt and being the guy that he is certainly makes sense to me.
Well, you know how we all feel about you. And of course, we were rooting you guys on in the playoffs. You got a terrific team in San Diego. You're loaded once again. We'll see you down in spring training, but all the A's fans, we're wishing you all the luck in the world in this season with the Padres.
Well, thank you. And we come to Oakland this year, which I'm looking very much forward to. So wasn't able to do it last year, but when the schedule came out, one of the first things I looked for, you know, when we're playing every team was to be able to come to Oakland this year. So can't wait.
Yeah, we got that set right there next to the dugout, Bob.
There you go. I'll be there. You know I will.
All right, buddy. You be well. We'll see you at spring training.
I appreciate you having me on for this.
The great Bob Melvin, the winningest manager in Oakland A's history. And we were like, I mean, you listen to the story, and that's why I wanted to bring Bob on today. Bob was one of the first people when I found out. I wasn't shocked because we knew Sal didn't show. He didn't He didn't show up for when he went into the A's Hall of Fame. We'd heard about stroke. I didn't know about cancer, but we knew he wasn't doing well. And as soon as it came across, I can't remember who had it first. My first thought, I immediately texted our boss, Delaire, and Cody and said, we got to have a tribute show on Monday. And immediately start throwing names of people, teammates, like we're going to have Joe Rudi, Gene Tenace. We're hoping for Reggie Jackson. I mean, we could still try if we can get Reggie on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And we've had Rollie Fingers. And I thought Bob Melvin, because I knew their relationship and what Sal Bando did for him, getting him into baseball. It was Sal Bando who really launched the post-playing career. It wasn't like Bob. I mean, Bob played the big leagues. You know, we would all take his career, but he always jokes that he didn't have a great career. So it wasn't like Bob Melvin was a star player and was going to hook on and get a job easy in a front office or whatever. But, you know, special times. That was special for Bob to come to Oakland, wear number 6, and it was really Sal Bando who launched his career. I mean, where Bob is now, what he's had, is he 3-time manager of the year?
Yep.
I mean, he's had a terrific career in a bunch of different stops, Seattle, Arizona, Oakland, now San Diego. That was launched by Sal Bando. You know what? It's amazing how great people, and that's what everybody says about Sal Bando. It's amazing how great people touch lives and change people's lives. And that allows those people then to go on and change other people's lives. It's amazing how life works. It's amazing how humanity works. I mean, you think about that. Think about what Sal Bando, I mean, did Sal have to give Bob a shot? Did he? No. But he did. And look at the career and look at all the people Bob Melvin has touched because of it. When you think about, we always thought about the Bill Walsh coaching tree. That was like the first time, right? I know there was, the Bear Bryant people that left Alabama or the John Wooden people, UCLA. There was, people that worked under Lombardi. The name speaks of cool winter cool winter storms or whatever. Duels in the snow, Lombardi. But, you have that. But it was the Walsh coaching tree where you could say, look at all these people that left Bill Walsh and all these people, because Bill Walsh changed everything. He taught you how to run the organization from just not calling plays and designing plays. It was how to draft, how to work out, how to train, when to fly, how to travel. I mean, he's got a book that tells you how to run an NFL organization. It's a famous book. It wasn't very popular because the average person could care less, but so many people in football have it. And so when you left Bill Walsh, or you work for somebody who worked for Bill Walsh, you run the exact same thing. When to meet, how to practice. Bill Walsh was the first guy that says, why am I going to put these guys out in gear and beat them up? I need you for the Super Bowl. I need you for the playoffs. I'm not going to beat you up in training camp. Bill Walsh was the first guy to do that. And Bill Walsh, by the way, the West Coast offense did not start in San Francisco. Bill Walsh, offensive mind, started for Paul Brown in Cincinnati with the Bengals. That's where it started. And then he brought it to Stanford, and then Eddie D took a chance on this older coach at Stanford. Bill Walsh goes to San Francisco, wins Super Bowls, the rest is history, but he has the tree. Well, if you're a great executive, you're going to have a tree. You're going to have people that work for you, learn from you, moved on from you, or coaching, whatever the influence that you have on people, that you help these people get better, and they go on and help people get better. And it's just not baseball, or it's just not on the field, on the court, on the ice. It's helping people not only in their careers, but helping them in life.
We're seeing it now more. What you build off the Bill Walsh, now it's Bill Belichick, the Bill Parcells coaching tree, Saban. Trying to think if there's anyone. Is there really anyone in baseball that we could say that's like recently?
That what?
That these guys learned from the coaching tree of a manager. I don't know if there really is. There's not a lot of long-term.
Terry Francona talked about that with us at the winter meetings. Who did he spawn off?
Was Torrey under him?
Yeah, there's a bunch of people off that have worked, managed, coached, front office.
I'm just trying to think of guys that have been around long enough, like the have guys that have gone on. Kevin Cash learned under Tito. So there's another one. Let me see. There's an article here. But I think he might be the one. Yeah. Here's some of the guys, according to this is from Reddit. Torey Lovello, Dave Roberts, Gabe Kapler. These guys either played or coached with them.
Yeah, that was it. A bunch of guys have played for him.
Alex Cora, Kevin Cash, David Ross, Mark Kotze, Rocco Baldelli, Matt Quattaro, who's now the manager of the Royals, right? Yes, because their former guy is now the coach of the White Sox, manager of the White Sox. And then Bud Black was a teammate with them. So there's a lot of guys that Terry Francona has helped as a manager or under his coaching.
At one point, you could have looked like that with like Art Howe. The amount of people that Art Howe had either played with, worked with, or played for him all over the place. I mean, if you're in the game long enough and you're good, you will have you'll have branches that leave you.
Yeah, Bob's Mark Kotze now. Bob's been in the game long enough to have some guys.
And that all stems back to Sal Bando.
Yeah. I'm glad we were able to get him to talk about it.
I thought that was really cool. So what do we have at 2:30?
Gene Tenace.
All right, so Gene Tenace, I want to play for you Bob Costas. Because, unfortunately, it's why we exist. We exist, and we were started because we don't get the love and we don't get the coverage that certain teams get. Just a reality. And that's why A's Cast got started, because we're going to cover this team better than anybody. And we're going to give you more coverage than anyone has ever given the team. And when you take like Sal Bando and he passes away, it doesn't get the news recognition. I mean, it's a big story. I mean, it was covered by everybody, but of course, and it's another reason why MLB Network was created. We're kind of like how MLB Network was created, because MLB felt like, wait a minute, our only coverage is what you're getting on SportsCenter. So in Bristol, Connecticut, these producers are making content and we're not getting enough of it. It's going too much to the NFL, not enough to us, maybe too much to the NBA. So what are we going to do? Let's create our own network. And this is where baseball fans will go. Well, I'm happy that today our buddy Chris Mad Dog Russo, the Radio Hall of Famer, had the great Bob Costas on.
Also a friend of the program. Don't forget.
Yes,
Costas has been on.
I mean, he's Bob Costas.
Might be one of the top 3 biggest people we've had on this program.
He's Bob Costas.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Bob Costas. You're not in broadcasting. You're not getting any bigger than that. I remember the first time he wasn't doing the Olympics. I remember turn on the Olympics. What was it, in China or Seoul? It was somewhere in Asia. And I turned on the Olympics and it wasn't Bob Costas. And I was like, what?
Was it Tirico?
It's Tirico. I'm like, what's Mike Tirico? Tirico's a guy that comes on like a week into the thing when Costas is tired, right? It was always Al Michaels would come in when it wasn't Costas. Costas is not there right in the beginning. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Bob Costas is the Olympics. It's the biggest sporting event in the world. It's the Olympics. Who's the main TV guy?
Was Bob Costas.
It was Bob Costas. And, hey, we talk Vince Scully and Vince Scully did the Olympics. It's Bob Costas. And Bob Costas wasn't on the Olympic coverage. And I had to Google it. I'm like, and then Bob has stepped down from doing the Olympics. I was like, wow, that's a game changer. It's not the same. No offense, Mike Tirico, but you're no Bob Costas.
I mean, Tirico's very good, but yeah.
Tirico's fabulous, but he's not Bob Costas.
Yeah, it's true. Bob still does a little bit of baseball, but, people my age are like, get this old guy off the TV. I'm like, it's Bob Costas.
Wow. You people.
I
do mean you people.
I didn't say me. I like Costas.
How do you not like Bob Costas?
He can tell stories forever. It's been around
He's
forever.
a legend.
He called games with Sal Bando on NBC.
Well, how long is that?
What, this cut?
Yeah.
2.5 minutes.
All right. They honored Sal Bando today. A's great on MLB Network. Of course, High Heat, Chris Mad Dog Russo had Bob Costas on to talk about the greatness that is Sal Bando.
Big hit Sal Bando passed away this weekend, the captain of that great A's team that won 3 in a row in 72, 73, 74. Sal was well, Bob can tell you better than I can, a very, very good player, sort of a fifth-place hitter, 20 homers, 80 RBIs, made all the plays defensively, sort of the epitome of that great team there in the early 70s there, Bob. Take it away for me. Go ahead.
You know, Dog, I don't know that he was the epitome. Maybe he was a counterweight. They had so many colorful characters, including the somewhat unpredictable owner, Charlie Finley, you know, and guys with nicknames, Catfish Hunter and Vida Blue and Reggie Jackson and on and on, and Rollie Fingers with the handlebar mustache. And Bando was the captain of the team at only age 25. He was kind of a steadying presence. He played almost every day. There was no histrionics with him, but he was a guy who was universally respected. He was a great player, but he was a consistently very good player on that A's team. And when you talk about them winning 3 World Series in a row, there are only 3 other teams, and they're all Yankee teams. Late 1930s, 1949 through 53 when they won 5 straight, and Joe Torre's Yankees at the end of the 20th century. Those are the only other teams that ever won 3 World Series in a row. The A's did it in 72, 3, and 4.
Yeah, Yankees in 98, 99, 2000. And, of course, we know about the great Yankees there in 36 with DiMaggio and, of course, Stengel's Yankees. Anyway, we have it. That A's team, Bob, is very underrated historically. I think it's probably because they didn't have a lot of great regulars. They didn't blow you away with regular season. You know, they won like 95 games every year, 92 games, but they were so good in the postseason because of their pitching.
Yeah.
And I think they're a little underrated historically about how great they were as a franchise. How about that?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. Just before them, the Baltimore Orioles, even more so, 69, 70, and 71. That team was truly great, a 100-plus victory team. The Robinsons, Boog Powell, Jim Palmer, Dave McNally, Mike Cuellar. But they lost 2 of those 3 World Series. They lost the Mets in 69. He wanted that slipped away. Then the Oakland A's, who immediately followed them.
Great teams, great names, Hall of Famers. Just the greatness of baseball in the 70s. You know, later on, I was going to play the whole thing for you. Gene Tenace is coming up here in just a little bit. But he was talking about Brooks Robinson and how Brooks Robinson kind of overshadowed Sal Bando. And he talked about, you know, that one World Series. Wow, what year was it? Was it against the Cincinnati Reds?
That would have been 7. You're talking about the A. That would have been 72.
No. That was the A's.
Oh, they would have played. Let's see.
It's early. It's like late 60s, early. It's like 71, 70, something like that.
It might have been 70 because
I don't think it's the Reds, but
yeah, it was because 71.
Okay,
they lost,
it was 70.
71. They lost to the Pirates.
So Bob Costas says, he goes, you got to realize all those magical, unbelievable plays that Brooks Robinson made in that World Series, right? And I was thinking about that, and I was like, yeah, that's the one where you see all the highlights of him making those crazy plays, going backhand into foul territory. I mean, Brooks Robinson had an unbelievable World Series in 1970. He was a human highlight reel, right? And then Bob Costas said the most important thing, that in 1970, that World Series had such a huge audience, it blows away what World Series have today. And that's just like, wow. Think about that. 1970. You would have more people, and it was like that throughout the 70s and probably well into the 80s too. The numbers television-wise that the World Series used to get, because we didn't have cable. We didn't have cell phones. Cody wasn't on Twitter all day long playing video games. People watched. There was ABC, NBC, and CBS. You had 3 choices, and the World Series was on, and way more people watched it. So when you have a World Series that, according to Bob Costas, was a high-rated series in 1970, everybody was watching Brooks Robinson. He became a star. I mean, he brought it up. He goes, overshadowed Bando, and you know what? You can honestly say Scott Rowland was as good or better an offensive player than Brooks Robinson. And I would not make, like, I would really have to study it, but remember, I didn't see Brooks Robinson. So it's like, your Bob Costas saw Brooks Robinson. So so he's like, you know, if you look at the numbers, Scott Rowland should be a Hall of Famer. Look at the difference between him and Brooks. But Brooks Robinson played at a time when everybody was watching the game. So he was like, Brooks Robinson, first ballot Hall of Famer.
I looked at this up earlier, and it was Bando compared to Scott Rowland. I looked at the WAR 7, which is the sum of your 7 best years added. Sal Bando's WAR 7 was 44.7. That was higher than Scott Rowland's. His Jaws, which is developed by Jay Jaffe.
Yeah.
Bando's was 53. Scott Rowland, 56.9. And we're talking about Scott Rowland potentially going into the Hall of Fame tomorrow, where Sal Bando had a 61.4 WAR, I believe is what it was, 61.5 in his career.
Overall?
Overall.
That's Hall of Fame worthy.
People are going to be like, well, his batting average. Well,
okay, wait. I say this. I don't know when you want to use batting average and when you don't. I don't know when you people do.
Well, we're talking about evaluating players now. Back then,
they cared. I mean, his WAR would have been higher with a better batting average.
Yeah, he also had a 119 OPS plus. That's 19 points better than the league average. So I think there could have been a case for Sal Bando for the Hall of Fame.
Well, was he a championship player?
He won 3.
Yes.
Straight.
Was he the captain? Yes. Did he have a moment in time where he was one of the best players in the game?
Yes. Over an 8-year span, he averaged 23 homers and 90 RBIs. And although only that, he had 3 top 5 MVP finishes in a 4-year span.
Well, and reality is, it's when do you finish your career and what are the parameters at the time? Because back then, Sal Bando, the parameters were really tough. Did you hit a ton of home runs? Did you have 3,000 hits? I mean, yeah. Now people are finding every way they can to get you into the Hall of Fame. So Sal Bando's career ended 5 years ago, and he was now coming up. He had won 3 straight World Series and done everything that he did back then, did it in today's game. People would be trying to find a way to get him into the Hall of Fame.
Oh, absolutely.
They just didn't do that back then. By the way, we continue to remember the great Sal Bando next with another man that was there winning World Series with him. The great Gene Tenace will join us next right here on A's Cast Live.
The Coliseum has gone by many names, but none better than the Last Dive Bar. Hi, everyone. Ken Korak here, and my friends at Last Dive Bar are helping us celebrate our longtime home. Last Dive Bar has the most unique merchandise for all Oakland baseball fans. T-shirts, sweatshirts, the Ray Fosse line, and my personal favorite, the lights have taken full effect. Visit their website at lastdivebar.com or follow them on social media at Last Dive Bar. All proceeds are invested back into the A's Community Fund and their affiliated charities. Go to lastdivebar.com. That's lastdivebar.com.
The Oakland Athletics begin spring training on February 25th. Now's the time to make plans to catch us in Mesa, Arizona, and enjoy the sunshine of your family and friends. Buy your tickets early for the best seats at the lowest prices as your green and gold take on the Giants, Dodgers, Padres, Angels, and more at Hohokam Stadium.
And Tony, it's a deep drive to right in the corner. Gritchick going back. He'll turn and watch it fly.
Get your tickets at athletics.com/spring. That's athletics.com/spring.
This is Chris Townsend for the Chicken Pie Shop of Walnut Creek. Great news! Our indoor dining is back, along with our beautiful patio dining. Come taste our world-famous chicken pie that has been served in Southern California for 83 years. The Chicken Pie Shop of Walnut Creek has one of the most dynamic menus, plus a full bar. pot pies, gourmet burgers, sandwiches, salads, flatbreads, and more. Don't forget, we still do takeout and delivery. For all the information, go to chickenpieshopwc.com. That's chickenpieshopwc.com.
Humanity has accomplished a whole lot so far. We created penicillin, the automobile, and the internet, not to mention drones, duct tape, and the hot dog. It's all thanks to the power of human connections. And Ring Central's here to make that even easier, more seamlessly and securely, on a platform built to grow your business. Say hello to a whole new way to say hello. Visit ringcentral.com and say hello to possibilities. Ring Central. Message, video, phone, together.
If you're looking for a new mattress, Nest Bedding has you covered. Sleep on the same mattress Hall of Famer Ricky Henderson sleeps on. Nest Bedding is a national brand with family-owned prices and service. You can shop at one of their Barrier locations, and all stores are sanitized and safe, or you can navigate their easy-to-use website, nestbedding.com. That's nestbedding.com. Green and gold fans, use the coupon code Oakland and you'll get 10% off your entire order. Nest Bedding, love where you sleep.
The 2022 American League Manager of the Year, Terry Francona, joined A's Cast live from the winter meetings and reflected on his time as the bench coach in Oakland.
It was 1 year, but the memories and the relationships seem like far more.
I know that year meant a lot to you in your career.
It did. It really did. Billy told me when I came there, he said, if we do well, you're probably going to manage again. And I remember him saying that, thinking, that's interesting. And he was right.
Yeah.
But Maka gave me a ton of responsibility being the bench coach, and we had a fun team, with Hudson and Zito and Mulder and Shavy and the guys and Miggy. It was a fun team, but it was just it was a real good learning year for me.
We just honored a lot of those guys, the 02 team, because, the anniversary. And it's so funny. And you and your family have been in this game for so long that the A's have always, and still to this day, run like a family business. We have people who've worked with us. Keith Lippman just retired after 54 years.
I saw that.
Steve Vucinich after 52. It's just been that family atmosphere. And once you've been in that family atmosphere, for God's sakes, just a few minutes ago, your former player, now our manager, Mark Kotze, was in that seat talking about you. It's like when you've been around the A's, you understand it's like a family business.
It really is. I can remember so many day games where 20 of us, uniform people, not uniform people, we'd head to this bar and we'd eat and have hors d'oeuvres and laugh. It is a family atmosphere. Voos and the clubhouse kids. I still talk to those guys. It is. You're completely right about that.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/A'sCast.
A's Cast Live continues from the town. Here's Chris Townsend.
That was a fun interview with Terry Francona at the winter meetings. Yeah, because you just know that he loved his 1 year in Oakland. Loved it. Cherishes it.
Then he went on to break the curse of the Bambino the next year.
Hall of Famer?
Oh yeah, I think no doubt. I think after we put not we, but the sport puts in Boch, I think he's probably next. And Dusty. I think Dusty solidified himself now that he won the World Series with Houston. But after that, I don't know. Tito would be one, and then
they never put anybody in when they're still managing.
True, yes.
Well, all three of them are still managing.
Yeah,
all the guys you mentioned.
It might be a while till. Well, yeah. Then again,
who's going to be out first?
Well, then again, you can retire and come back like our good friend Tony La Russa did.
Jack McKeon, Trader Jack, can come back at 70. How old was he when he came back?
When he came back, won the World Series with the Marlins
in 03.
03, yeah, beating the Yankees.
So yeah, all three of those guys are going to get in the Hall of Fame. But Terry Francona, what a career! And it was a lot of fun to talk to him about his time with the Athletics and what it meant to him. Gene Tenace is going to join us here on A's Cast Live. You think about his unbelievable baseball journey, an all-star, a World Series MVP, a 6-time World Series champion, and it's always great to have him here on A's Cast Live. Gene, thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, my pleasure.
Well, we know how close you were with Sal Bando. You guys were roommates for years. Tough news, but we wanted to make sure we gave the man his due and we celebrated his life, because what a player, what a career. He was your guys' captain.
Yeah, Sal was a great player, tremendous athlete. He was the captain, and this guy played every day. He never took a day off, and he put up very consistent with his numbers throughout his career. I mean, he was a tremendous competitor. I can tell you that. He hated to lose. He loved to win. And I can give you an example of that. Him and I started playing racquetball in Walnut Creek there at a club there, and I would get the best of him, and he got so mad he tore his racket up.
Well, that's the thing. We were talking to your other teammate just about an hour ago, Rollie Fingers, and just talking about, when Rollie first showed up and there was a vote for who's going to be team captain. Like, Rollie was just a young guy, and you looked around, and a lot of you guys were young guys, and you're like, it was a real easy pick. Like, he was the guy.
Yeah, I didn't know how that came about, how he ended up captain. I thought Charlie had something to do with it, but Rollie said there was a vote. I wasn't there then, obviously, but I know I wasn't involved in it, but I would have voted for him if I had been. But I didn't. Somebody asked me that the other day, and I couldn't figure for the life of me how he ended up the captain, other than Charlie. Charlie, he created everything. He did everything. Charlie, he wanted all the recognition, so I figured he was the one that put his stamp on that. But it's kind of interesting to find out about with Rollie.
Well, and you think about the group. It's a real interesting group. It's greatness, but it's not the easiest group to corral, and you got to be the captain of these guys.
Yeah, he had his work cut out for him. He had his hands full. We had a lot of different personalities, boy, and Sal had to mingle with all those different personalities. And I tell you, being his roommate, we would discuss a lot of stuff and that I can't reveal, but but he handled it, he was a leader. I mean, that's the best way I can describe him. I mean, he could have been a leader at anything, whether it been in the military or anything.
I think about your great career, and after you got done playing, you started coaching, and you kept winning World Series rings. Were you surprised at all that Sal would go into the front office and then have the career after his playing days that he did?
No, I wasn't surprised at all. I mean, Sal's a bright guy, Even he went to college, but he's a very intelligent person. So I wasn't surprised at that at all. So I figured, when he went to Milwaukee, we left Oakland at the same time. I went to San Diego, he went to Milwaukee. And then when he, like you said, when his playing career is over, he moved right into the front office there. But I wasn't surprised at that.
When you look back at him offensively, the one thing we've been trying to stress to a lot of the young A's fans is that Sal Bando brought it every day. He brought consistency in a sport that is not about consistency. I mean, having consistent numbers is so tough to do year in and year out. How much did you guys rely on Sal to give you that consistency every year?
Well, we relied on him a lot. My God, he hit it in the RBI slots, and we relied on him, and just like we relied on Reggie and Rudi. These guys were the meat of our lineup, and Sal was right in the mix of that. And Sal, for me, he was probably one of the, not taking away from these other two guys, he was probably the best hitter with two outs and a guy on second base I ever played with. You put a man out there, it's like putting $500 out there, and he's going to get that guy in. I've never seen a man, boy, just bear down at home plate and grind out at bats. And some of the RBIs weren't pretty, There weren't no pictures, just numbers, man. He'd break a bat or he'd flare a ball. but he would find a way. He was determined to get that sinking RBI, that run in, and he was, and that's why he was such a clutch player.
Yeah, that's why it just fried me when people talked about, there's no such thing as clutch. That is so untrue. There are certain guys, you know it from your playing days, you know it from your coaching days. There's just certain guys that in the crucial situations show up and play better than other guys.
Especially at crunch time, when in situations, there's some guys can drive in runs, and there's guys that can't drive in runs. I when I was coach, I would tell Cito Gaston, I see a guy saying, this guy is a good hitter when we're down 3 or up 3. But when you get that game close, tied or 1 run difference, he's not the same hitter. But Sal was like that. He loved to be in that pressure situation. And he'd get his nose in there, and I'm going to tell you, he would grind him bats out. I watched him for 6.5 years. I'm telling you, the dude was one of the best I ever played with.
Take us back to those Toronto days. When you tell the great Cito Gaston that, what was his response? Basically, when you're saying, hey, when the game's on the line, this guy doesn't show up.
It's like, it's like Joe Carter. You leave spring training, you can write down Joe Carter's numbers. He's going to drive you in 100. And, he's going to hit you 30, plus home runs before the first pitch is thrown. That's what he did. And that's what Sal would do. You could do that with Sal, if you wanted to. I mean, he's going to drive you 80, 90, 100 runs a year. He's going to hit you 20 plus home runs, probably more than that if he was playing nowadays, because that was a dead ball area we played in.
How good?
And he.
No, go ahead.
Huh?
No, go ahead. Sorry about that.
It was a dead ball area we played in. We played in a football stadium. We didn't play in a baseball stadium. The ball didn't carry out there in Oakland. So, night games, we played late back in those days in the 70s, early 70s, 69s, 60s, 70s. I mean, our games were late, like 8 o'clock at night.
You guys started at 8 o'clock?
Somewhere there, some of them games started late. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we can get out of there till midnight. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole different ball game. Now you want to, you're not bringing kids. It's like you're making that decision. Like, if I go to the game, how much is this going to affect me tomorrow for work? That is a late start time.
Yeah, 7:30 is a late start time. We probably played a lot of our games at 7:30. But 7:30, that's stinking late. I mean, that's cold.
Oh, there.
You get the ballpark. Back in those days, you go to the ballpark at 4 o'clock, you're freezing. You come from the other side of those hills over there. I lived out in San Ramon, and Sal and Joe, I think they lived in Danville. So you come over there, man, it's 90 degrees, 95, 100 degrees. You get down to Coliseum, you got old money, you got to have a jacket on.
And it's crazy because really, I mean, once you get over the hill, but the miles, you're not that far away. When you actually just look at the direct miles, not that far away. But
30 minutes, 30 minutes, 40-minute drive from, coming down through Crow Canyon. I mean, to get down to the Coliseum. I mean, 30 minutes back in those days, it was like 30-minute drive. Now there's so many more people there. Probably take you an hour and a half.
We talk.
Yeah, but you get down there, it's freezing.
Oh, no doubt. We talk so much about Sal's offense. Talk about how good he was defensively.
Oh, he was solid as a rock. I'm going to tell you what, he had a cannon. I don't even know if people realize he had a cannon. He had a right fielder's arm playing third base. Him and Campaneris both had outfielder's arms. I mean, legit right fielder's arms, and they played shortstop and third base. Sal had a tremendous throwing arm, and he was extremely accurate with his throwing arm. And great hands. He was as solid as a rock at third base. He was a great player, Sal. All around great player.
I was listening to Bob Costas, and Bob Costas talked about, there's certain players that can overshadow other guys during that time. He talked about Brooks Robinson, playing on the East Coast, had played in big games, had played in the World Series. That kind of Brooks Robinson kind of overshadowed everybody else at the third base position during that time. But he said, of course, people inside the game truly knew how special Sal Bando was.
I agree with that 100%. When I came up, Brooks Robinson, he was the man. I mean, he won, 15 Gold Gloves or some kind of crazy thing like that. Maybe not, I don't know. But you watch him play. I mean, defensively, he just seemed to make these great plays at the right time and in a crucial part of a ball game. And you're trying to compete with that on a day-to-day basis. I mean, it's pretty difficult, especially for a guy like Sal or anybody else. You got a great player out there establish himself, and then you got a young kid coming in the league, and you got to get over that hump with this guy. And, Sal held his own. I thought he was a great third baseman, really. I thought he was a very underappreciated throughout baseball, but other than our club, we all appreciated him. But he had great respect from his teammates and around the league, Sal did.
Something I've never asked you is, after you guys start going your own ways, I mean, you've become like brothers with everything that you've been through, the winning, all the traveling. It was such a special group. How much were you guys able to keep in touch once you started going to playing for other teams?
It was tough. Yeah. It was very difficult. And because at that time your kids start getting older and you start getting involved, with their lives. And it was very difficult. He's in Milwaukee. I'm still in California. So it made it really difficult. I stayed in touch with Rudi probably, I was closer with Rudi because he stayed out here. We would go hunting together and stuff like that. And he would come and visit, his campaign, him Sharon would come and visit Linda and I and vice versa. So, yeah, but, Sal, he got back there and he got into management, as a general manager. And then, he had his own set of group of friends and had his kids to deal, to follow their careers and, in high school and college. And, yeah, it made it tough, but we still kept in touch on the phone though. We didn't just say, look, we just shut it down because our career's over with and our friendship's over with. No, we always called one another.
How was he as a roommate? Was he like the clean roommate, the messy roommate?
Oh, no. He was Mr. Clean. Yeah, both of us were. Sal and I had a lot of, we had a great time together. For 6.5 years or whatever it was. But him and I would get in wrestling matches in the room, and then I'd get the best of him sometime, and then he'd get ticked off, and then he would just literally pick me up and buggy whip me up against the back headboard of the bed, and I'd call Tommy, that's enough. I'm not paying for no stuff broken in this room. We ain't making that kind of money, neither you or me.
Yeah.
So we would get into our scuffles and arguments, and then we'd end up going to dinner together, and he was a great roommate. I had a lot of fun with Sal.
Well, he was so special, and so are you. We always appreciate the time, and we love having you on the program. We'll be checking in later on the season, but thank you so much for honoring your great friend, truly one of the great Oakland A's of all time.
Yeah, rest in peace, brother. All right, man. Thanks for the call.
Take care, Gene. The great Gene Tenace, World Series MVP. 3-time World Series champion with the A's, 6-time World Series champion. One in St. Louis and then 2 more in Toronto. Gene Tenace, you know what Gene Tenace has done in his career?
A lot.
Do you know?
Well, you mentioned the World Series. But
he's collected World Series rings.
Is he the Robert Horry of baseball?
He's got 6, 72, 73, 74, 82 with the Cardinals. I'm not looking at 82 with the Cardinals. 82 is Cardinals, right?
Yes.
And then Blue Jays, 92, 93. Touch them all, Joe. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life, which you also had Dave Stewart and Ricky Henderson showed up for Toronto to win a World Series there too.
Actually, a better apt comparison would be Steve Kerr. Kerr collected how many as a player, and then he's won.
We had 5 as a player.
So he had
he had 3 with Chicago. He was on the back 3
of the Spurs. He
and
played
then
on the Spurs.
2 with the Spurs. So we had 5 as a player.
And he's won how many with the Warriors? 4.
4 with the Warriors. Was he on any staff or was he just doing TV?
Well, he was the
TNT.
The former GM of the Phoenix Suns.
He didn't win there.
They were good. Those were good teams, and they didn't win any titles. You're right. Kerr has. Let me just.
So 9. He's got 9 rings.
Steve Kerr has how many rings? 9. Yeah, 9. 5 as a player, 4 as a coach.
I've seen this picture of Nick Saban. So college football has got to be pretty ridiculous, right? Like you're going to get a ring. You get a ring for winning the national championship. You get a ring for winning the SEC. He's got this box of rings just from Alabama, right? Don't forget, he won a ton at Michigan State. He won at LSU. Nick Saban's got so many. Some of the like Bobby Bowden. Can you imagine how many? Bobby Bowden went to how many bowl games in how many years?
God.
8 million a year from. If you don't know, Bobby Bowden started at West Virginia, then went to Florida State. I mean, he coached. He was a head coach for 8 billion years. I mean, how many rings did Bobby Bowden have?
Oh, let's take a look.
I love Bobby Bowden. He was great. Didn't know at the end, had no clue his players were. He just knew them by number. I like 58. I like.
He had 12. He had 2 national titles, 12 ACC titles, and 2 AAC titles. He also won the Bobby Dodd Coach of the Year award, Walter Camp Coach of the Year award, and
what was his bowl record?
21, 10, and 1. There's a tie in a bowl game.
There was a tie.
What game did they tie? No, I'm curious.
Don't get into the rabbit hole.
Went to the College Football Hall of Fame in 2006. That's pretty good.
Can you imagine a wrestling match between Sal Bando and Gene Tenace? Those are 2 really thick, strong guys. Those are grown men.
Who would they be?
Roommates.
Who would you compare them to in the days when you watched wrestling?
It'd be like Bret Hart.
Oh,
because we're not talking Hogan at 6'6" and Andre the Giant and Big John Studd.
Okay, so
we're talking about their regular looking. It's like Shawn Michaels against Bret Hart.
Wow, the excellence of execution versus Sexy Boy. Okay, all right.
That's a little too much wrestling knowledge.
You're looking at WrestleMania, the Iron Man match they had.
Would you say that's a good comp?
Because
those guys weren't massive dudes.
Let me see how big Gene Tenace was. Gene Tenace was 6 foot. Okay, yeah.
6 foot 190.
And Bando was of course it doesn't tell you on Wikipedia. Let me just pull up the baseball where I had
6 foot 190 in your prime. That's a pretty
6 foot 195 for Bando.
This is a good matchup. This is 6 feet 190. I mean, these are 2. Because let's face it, tall baseball players for the most part do not succeed. It's just we have had very rare big dudes succeed in baseball. Bigger the guy, bigger the strike zone, longer the arms. Really, the majority of great players are all. I mean, if you went down the Hall of Fame and said greatest players of all time, they're not 6'5", 6'6". They're not. Willie Mays. They may say he's 6 feet. I've interviewed Willie Mays back in the day. Yes, he was. Oh, Willie Mays was probably.
I mean, Babe Ruth was 6'2". So, I mean, even him, a guy we
How big was Willie? Willie Mays was no way. If they say he was 6 feet, they're begging. Because I've interviewed Willie Mays.
Say, hey, kid was
5'10". I was going to say, we were eye to eye. There's no way. Willie Mays is considered the greatest all-around baseball player of all time.
Yes, that's what a lot of people say. Yes.
He's not the greatest power hitter. Not the greatest base hit hitter. He's considered greatest center fielder. But as an all-around doing everything, throwing, hitting, running, whatever, kind of Willie Mays is considered the best of all time, right?
Yes.
He was 5'10".
Yeah, it's not like he was Aaron Judge 6'7" or whatever.
Bigger
Judge
you
is.
get. I mean, I remember when people were absolutely enamored with I gotta put my mug back up here. I'm happy about my mug, if you don't notice. I got this for Christmas. I knew it'd be perfect for the set. Richie Sextons of the world, 6'6" and above. It's
a great pull.
And that's why Judge is an anomaly. What's Trout?
6'2", 235.
My Trout is not 6'2". In cleats, he's 6'2".
I mean, Otani's 6'4". He's a big dude.
He's a big dude.
Yeah.
But they're outliers. I mean, how many 6'4" guys show up and they just get eaten alive and they're gone? How about our guy Nate Fryman?
I was just going to say Nate Fryman.
How tall was Nate Fryman? Like 6'6"?
Wasn't he 6'7"? Nate Fryman was 6'8".
6'8". Yeah. I mean, to me, all those guys look great.
John Roush and Randy Johnson.
Greatest hitter of all time is?
We're talking about overall.
Overall, greatest hitter of all time.
Hank Aaron.
Ted Williams.
Oh,
he was
yeah.
a big dude. He was. I want to say Teddy Ballgame was 6'4".
Ted was 6'3". Yeah.
6'3". What was Hank Aaron, who is also one of the greatest hitters of all time?
6 foot.
6 foot. I mean, that's not crazy. I mean, the average. I think the average size of a male is what in this country? What, 5'8"?
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah. So Hank Aaron at 6 feet is not. Hank Aaron's not posting you up in hoops. He's only 6 feet.
No,
he's a point guard.
That's the only people to post you up is our pitching staff this year. Mick. I mean, the Mick was 5'11".
Mickey Mantle 5'11". See what I'm saying? What's Pete Rose? Pete Rose is my size. He's got to be 5'9".
Pete Rose was 5'11".
5'11". They're lying. But you see what I'm saying? We could do this all day long, and you'll find out that the majority of the greatest players to have ever lived are all around 6 feet or less. Bonds, I'm going to go 6'3".
Not Barry
6'2".
Bonell.
Bonds was 6'2".
Yep.
6'1".
Who are we forgetting? Big Mac was tall.
Big Mac was a big dude, especially with the PEDs.
6'5". That's pretty big.
He was a big dude. But wasn't a great hitter. He was a great power hitter.
Career 263.
Where's my guy Jose? 6'4".
Jose Canseco.
Not Altuve.
Yeah, not
the great Jose Canseco.
Canseco was 6'4".
6'4".
I mean, Giancarlo Stanton's a big dude.
He's the biggest dude ever. No one's been. Oh no, I think Aaron Judge. Yeah, Giancarlo Stanton's a big dude.
6'6".
Yeah.
That's a big guy.
But there's not a lot of them. Who's our 6'6" guy? Who's our 6'5" guy? Who's our 6'4" guy?
They're all in our starting rotation.
You don't have them because they for some reason big people don't translate in this game as position players.
I think our biggest player
and they don't last.
How
big was Frank Thomas?
6'4".
He was big. He was a tight end.
I mean, Seth Brown might be our biggest player height wise, and he's 6'1".
Yeah, Seth Brown's not. I mean, that's not crazy. Seth Brown's not walking down the street and you go, "Oh my god."
The big hurt.
Frank Hurt was a massive man.
It's waiting for it to load here.
Frank Thomas,
6'5", 240.
Yeah, he was a big dude.
Well, I mean, nickname's Big Hurt. You can't call someone the Big Hurt and be small.
You play tight end in the SEC, you're not going to be a small kid.
I love that.
And remember, when Frank Thomas played football in the SEC, they were not in shotgun all game long. They were running the football. Frank Thomas, who is one of the greatest offensive players in the history of baseball, was essentially a small offensive lineman in college. That's how they played football in the SEC back in the day.
He throws 5'11".
Yeah.
Who? I'm not. Now you got me wondering who's the biggest guy on the. It might be Seth Brown.
I'm telling you, go down the line. We don't have. I mean,
Dermis Garcia. How big
tell
is
me
he?
what your guy Juan Soto, the greatest player to have ever played.
Dermis Garcia 6'3". Just so you know,
Yeah.
what's Ryan Noda real quick? Then I'll do your guy. Your guy Juan Soto. Noda's also 6'3". All right, Juan Soto. Soto is 6'2".
No one's blowing our socks off except Aaron Judge,
Giancarlo, and Big Hurt. Nando's 6'3". That's a Fernando Tatis Jr. if you're not a Padres fan.
Yeah.
So,
but let me tell you something. That's a good wrestling match. 6 feet, 190 against 6 feet, 1. Do you have a better wrestling comp than the one I gave you? Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels?
If I have to pick from the era you were talking, it'd probably be those two. Maybe, hold on. What about the model Rick Martel versus Mr. Perfect? I'm a big Mr. Perfect guy.
Chad, what was his name? Chad Henning?
Kurt
Henning. And now you're going to see a perfect plus. By the way, he was a great athlete. He could dunk a basketball.
Yeah. The videos they did, the throwing the towel behind his back and catching is still one of my favorite things ever.
But have you seen him dunk?
Yes, I did.
Mr. Perfect, I mean, obviously had his issues. But the great Kurt Henning was a terrific athlete.
That's why he did. Like, the vignettes they had of him as Mr. Perfect are so good.
Yeah, but the reason why they did all that is so he can never stay healthy.
Yeah,
There's a reason why he was always hanging out in street clothes with Ric Flair. You can never stay healthy. He was great on camera, though. That's
Yeah.
the thing. You still get paid in wrestling. He's great on camera. He's great, but he just can't stay healthy.
I've been going back and watching some of the older.
Well, I send you Ric Flair stuff. There's these parody accounts. I don't even know they're not parody accounts. They're just these.
No context Flair on Instagram.
There's just these accounts on Instagram that it'll say like your wife caught you out drinking and playing golf, and then it'll have Ric Flair doing a speech. I mean, they have Curb Your Enthusiasm, they have Seinfeld, they have wrestling. It's just, and I'm sending that stuff to you every day.
Real quick before we get to Feldy because he's here. This is an update I got. Artie Moreno, the Moreno family says in a statement they are not ready to part ways with the Angels. Will continue to own the team.
Wait, what?
The Moreno family is not going to sell the Angels yet.
Huh.
So what's that mean for Shohei Ohtani? Is he getting the extension for opening day?
Well, before you ask that, you have to ask why are they not selling the team?
That's a good question.
I would say from a business standpoint, they put the feelers out there. Bring on the great David Feldman, our A's historian from everywhere. Pac-12, NBC, Major League Baseball, official score. The man does everything. We have an echo.
Hold on.
Phil, do you hear the echo?
I do hear the echo. Hey, it's gone.
There, it's gone. I'm going to.
Nope, it's still there.
So what are we going to do? We're going to figure it out. It's great technology of ours. That's the funny thing is we are using state-of-the-art technology. It's just the streaming world is so new that it's tough. You got rid of the streaming. I mean, with all the work you do in television and everything, I mean, what we're doing is still kind of the new frontier. So we're figuring out. By the way, how are you, my friend? It's been a while.
It has been. It's been good. Did you have good holidays? Good New Year? Everything well?
Everything went well. We went down to fantasy camp, and let me tell you, getting out of the rain and being in 75-degree weather in Arizona, it made you think, I'm ready for spring training. This might be the most, after all the weather we've had, the most I've been like, let's get her going. I'm kind of excited. I know we're not going to win a ton of games, but we're going to be better, and we're starting to see the process. We're going to get into a lot with you. Let's start with this Angels news. So Artie Moreno and his family float the trial balloons that we're going to sell. Not saying when they're going to sell. We're just really thinking about we're going to sell. And then all of a sudden, all this nonsense about Joe Lacob to buy the Athletics, never going to happen. That's not going to happen. And then it's like, oh, Joe Lacob's just going to buy everybody. Okay, it's not happening. I just wonder, did the Moreno family, like a lot of people do, put the trial balloons out there that you're thinking about selling your business so you can see what the actual interest is, see what you think you can make, and maybe they found out it wasn't as much as they thought they would get.
Yeah, it's possible. It's really so hard to know. I mean, these owners of baseball teams, they live in such a different world than we do. The old Gatsby line, the rich, they're not like you and me. And the worlds that they roll in are very different. So it's hard to really know what went on there. Maybe it's something with the rest of the Moreno family. Maybe they talked to Artie and said, hey, we want to keep the team, will it to us, and we're going to make billions and billions and billions of dollars. That's what happens with these teams. It's really hard to know. And much like John Fisher, Artie Moreno does not talk to the press. He has not talked to the press now. I remember talking to Jeff Fletcher, the great writer for the OC Register. I think it's been almost 10 years since Artie has talked to the press.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I can't remember what the exact thing was. Remember that whole thing where they were going to redo Anaheim Stadium and they had to deal with the city of Anaheim.
You know what? It might have been he talked when Albert Pujols signed, and who was the left-hander from Texas that he signed with?
C.J. Wilson.
C.J. Wilson and Albert Pujols, they had the joint press conference from the Big A. Could that possibly be it?
That could be it. I mean, that's the timeline, right? Because that was before the 2012 season. So, yeah, that definitely could be when he last talked. So, again, much like us in the Bay Area with John Fisher, we don't know what Artie Moreno thinks or what he wants and what he wants to do. It's so hard, and it's just speculation from all of us.
You know, there is that tax that's pretty crazy on you when you inherit extreme wealth. It was something that in our sports world, I think the first time, I think for myself, back when my sports radio days, we were thinking about, it's when Dr. Buss passed away, and they had prepared the Buss family with the Lakers because Dr. Buss had made all that money in real estate, and he has the Lakers, and it's all going to get passed down to the kids. And how are they going to deal with this tax? Because it's tremendous. We've talked about it with the Davis family. Luckily, Mrs. Davis is still with us. Of course, the great Al Davis, the Hall of Famer, no longer with us. But these families need to prepare how they're going to do with taxes and the transfer of wealth and everything. So maybe there's part of that. I don't know. But I do know this. Mark Langston told us a story, great San Jose State Spartan, about just the amount of money the Angels make off merch from Shohei Ohtani. Plus, we know the international money, the advertising, the money coming in from Japan. You know, whatever you want to pay him. You want to pay him $300 million, $400 million, whatever the price. Just know that Shohei Ohtani, there's Shohei Ohtani, the baseball player, and there's Shohei Ohtani as the business asset. He is a business asset. So whether you're going to re-sign him, trade him, all this is so beyond just going to Baseball Reference and looking at his numbers. It's what he can bring to you wealth-wise to your ownership group.
Right. He's a commodity. And remember last year during baseball season, and the Angels were having another bad year. And we're saying, how can they waste another Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani season of these two? And then the speculation, well, if you're going to trade one or the other, what would you do? And everybody was like, well, you trade Mike Trout. Mike Trout is a great baseball player. But Shohei Ohtani is more than that. He's more than that to your franchise for what he brings in outside, on the field, and off the field. It's a whole different world with Ohtani compared to Trout. Now, obviously, they're not getting rid of Trout. Trout's got a no trade clause. There's no talk about that. Shohei is going to be a free agent. It looks like, right, at the end of this next season. So that's going to be very interesting. But the Angels, you have to do all you can to keep him. This is a once-in-a-generation player. Maybe many generations player that you can't let go.
Going to be really, really interesting. One of the reasons why we wanted to have you on today to talk about Sal Bando, and of course, you're one of our A's historians, and you grew up watching Sal Bando. That those teams mean so much to you in your childhood. You know how special he was as a player, as a captain, as a man, as a friend to everybody. It was tough to hear about the passing. We knew he wasn't in good health, but when we look back at the Oakland Athletics Sal Bando, what do you think?
I think he's one of the most underrated great players of his era. And maybe it's because of the team that he was on, where you had these huge personalities with Reggie Jackson and Catfish Hunter. Even Bert Campaneris had that one skill of being able to steal bases that overshadowed everything that Sal Bando did. And all Sal Bando did was play almost every day. Right? He averaged 156 games played. There's no load management going on. Sal Bando was out there every day, playing a solid third base.
Nice dig at the Warriors, by the way.
Yeah. I can get into that. I mean, it's real, boy.
It's unbelievable.
But and Sal he was captain. He was a linchpin of this team. He was the one who kept all these personalities together and focused and playing fundamentally. When Sal drafted by the A's of Arizona State, he led the Sun Devils to 2 College World Series, winning a World Series in 65, the most outstanding player of the 65 College World Series in 480. Drafted by the A's in the 6th round. Comes up, got a bunch of managers going through in his first few seasons. But then Dick Williams gets hired in 71. And Dick Williams and Sal Bando just hit it off. Right? They're the same personality. They believed in fundamentals of baseball. They talked the game. They would dine together. They played cards together. And because Sal Bando had all the respect of all his teammates, and when they saw that the captain Sal likes Dick Williams, then we like Dick Williams too. And that carried over for the next 3 seasons. And it kind of worked almost in the opposite way in 74, right? When Alvin Dark becomes the new manager, Dick Williams resigned after getting fed up with Charlie Finley. The A's Finley brings in Alvin Dark, and all the A's looked at him as, as Charlie Finley's toady. Right? Why do we respect this guy? Yeah, Alvin Dark had a nice playing career, but the A's had no respect for him. And it kind of came to a head in June, where Sal Bando in the middle of the locker room just kind of yells out, Alvin Dark, he couldn't even manage a freaking meat market. And little did Sal know, Alvin Dark was standing right behind him.
Yeah.
And now Sal felt a little bad, but it kind of broke the ice. You think 3 months into the season, this should have already happened, but it took this long. And all of a sudden, Sal Bando and Alvin Dark came to an understanding. And Sal kind of told Alvin that the A's know how to play baseball. They know how to play winning baseball. Let us do our thing. And Alvin Dark sort of agreed to that. And again, once Sal Bando's teammates saw that Sal was okay with Alvin Dark, well, they all came along for the ride too, and a third straight championship. That was the magnetism that Sal Bando had in that clubhouse.
Yeah, I had to ask you this because our beloved Ray Fosse always had me believing, we were always the underdogs. There was no way the A's were underdogs to the Mets. The Mets team stunk. They were barely 500. Old man Willie Mays. I mean, obviously, Koosman and Seaver. Seaver is one of the greats. But looking back, you can't tell me the Mets were. If we could go back to Vegas in 1973 in a sports book, I don't even know if they had sports books in 73. There's no way the Mets were favored over the A's.
Well, they were, and it made no sense. And that's because, again, no one really knew who the A's were, even though they had won the World Series the year before against the Reds, right? They were still this West Coast team. The games aren't on television. Nobody knows who they are. And the Mets are in New York. So you have the whole New York, East Coast media. Yeah, East Coast bias. It happened back then as well. But nobody just knew who the A's were. So, yeah, betting-wise, they were the underdog. People who knew baseball, no. The A's were not underdogs to the Mets. And this was a Mets team that barely squeaked into the playoffs, barely with over 80 wins. Come on. And in 74, even though all the talking that the Dodgers were doing, the A's were definitely favored. And, the thing we talk about Sal Bando and what I'm saying when he's underrated for his era is you look back at his prime as a third baseman in the American League, and that's from 69 to 78. There's 10 years there, right? First 8 with the A's and then 2 years with the Brewers. And you go, okay, who are the best players? And, we use WAR now to probably quantify somebody's total package as a player, right? And if you look at the top WAR for those 10 years, it's Hall of Famer Joe Morgan, Hall of Famer Johnny Bench, Hall of Famer Rod Carew, Hall of Famer Reggie Jackson, then Sal Bando. Sal Bando had the 5th best WAR over a 10-year period in Major League Baseball from 69 to 78. Better than Pete Rose, better than Carl Yastrzemski, Willie Stargell, Tony Perez, guys who eventually get to the Hall of Fame. That's why I say he's the most underrated superstar I think we've seen in baseball in the last 50 years.
It's like he finished his career at the wrong time. If he finished his career now that we've got WAR and we got JAWS and we got all these different things that we're trying to do now to look at certain players, should they be in, shouldn't they be in? Like they're trying to really make a case for Scott Rowland and Billy Wagner and certain guys right now. I mean, I've seen people really trying to make a case for Bobby Abreu. Yeah, and he said, I mean, if Sal Bando played today, there's a good chance he'd get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he'd be thought of as one of those great third basemen, right? And when David Wright comes up with the Mets in a few years, Evan Longoria, and these are third basemen that are going to be talked about as Hall of Famers. Sal Bando didn't even get 7% of he got 0.7% of the vote his 1 year on the ballot. And to be honest, he wasn't a Hall of Famer. But for those 10 years, he was one of the best players in baseball. No doubt, one of the best and one of the most important. You talk about winners and clutch, right? You look at Sal Bando's numbers and his average isn't always that great. But anytime the A's needed a big hit or driving a run, he drove in that run through the course of the season by playing every day. And the other thing that's interesting is when you look at his postseason numbers, They're not great, right? But Sal Bando came up when it was needed most because he's surrounded by a great team. The series that the A's lost is when Sal Bando was at his best because that's when they needed him the most. In 71, when they got swept by the Orioles in the ALCS, 364, 2 doubles, a home run. In 75, when they get swept by the Red Sox, 6 for 12 with 2 doubles. And let me tell you, those 2 doubles came at Fenway Park. And in any other stadium, because of the Green Monster, those were 2 home runs. And that whole series might have been a little different. But that's because Sal, he stepped up when it was needed most. That's what he was. He was a clutch player.
And somebody had to corral this 3-ring circus.
Exactly.
And it was a 3-ring circus.
It was such big personalities and such winners. They had a common enemy, and that was Charlie Finley. And Sal had his run-ins with Finley too, trying to get arbitration, trying to get more money. And Charlie Finley would rip Sal Bando, rip him to the media. Again, using those averages. You hit 236. Why am I going to pay a 236 hitter? Well, let's forget that he's hitting 280 with runners in scoring possession and driving in all the big runs. And the other thing about Sal Bando buying in, 1976, right? Reggie gets traded with Ken Holtzman. Catfish is already gone. Chuck Tanner becomes the A's manager. And Chuck Tanner decided the A's are going to run. They're going to be a base-stealing fanatics. They steal 341 bases, which is still the American League record and still the most by any team since 1911. 341 steals. And there's Sal Bando, slow Sal, who had 19 combined stolen bases in his previous 6 seasons. He stole 20 bags in 1976 because he bought in, he's a team leader, and he did what needed to be done to help his team win.
Running Sal.
I mean, if Sal was categorized as stocky, and I think that's a good way to think of him. He's stocky. He kind of, for a kid growing up in the 70s, he reminded me of Lou Grant from the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Kind of stocky.
Yeah.
And kind of businesslike and kind of gruff. And that was Sal, and there's Sal stealing 20 bases. I just think, keeping those personalities together, being Captain Sal, being the linchpin, buying in, he did all that. He was a winner. Sal Bando was a winner.
And then, of course, he moves on to Milwaukee, and I've been reading it all today, but let me just get it right. He and Rollie are both part of the Milwaukee Brewers Wall of Honor. To think that he goes on, plays in Milwaukee, and then was an executive for years for him.
Yeah, he was Milwaukee's first big free agent signing after the 76 season. He had 2 really good years in 77 and 78, 17 homers each of those years, hitting 78, 82 RBIs. He kind of slows down. And in 1980, the Brewers make him a player coach. He's a player coach his final 2 years in 1980 and 1981. And again, this back to Sal coming up big when his team needs him most. In 81, the Brewers are in the first ever division series. This was due because of the strike. They have these division series. They're playing the Yankees. Sal Bando, who barely played in 81, starts all 5 games of the division series, goes 5 for 17 with 3 doubles, hitting 294. Again, just standing up when his team needs him most. So that was the end of his career with the Brewers. He stepped away for a year or 2 and then comes back. He's an assistant kind of to the president and then the general manager for most of the 90s. Just a really good baseball man.
And started Bob Melvin's post-playing career, which is, we had Bob on earlier today, which is also an amazing story. And it takes me to number 6. You think about Sal Bando, the 3 World Series titles. Then you say Bob Melvin wore it for him. Bob Melvin has won more games than anybody in Oakland A's history as a manager. It just seems fitting to retire that number.
It'd be interesting if they would. I mean, now that they retired, Stu kind of opening the door to different ways and different players that they can retire their numbers. And Captain Sal or number 6, even if we don't retire numbers and what other organizations have done and other leagues and other franchises in other leagues, is you have kind of a wall of honor. some way to honor these players, even if you don't retire it, some sort of wall of honor. And Sal Bando would deserve to be that. I mean, across the bay, the Giants have their wall of honor, and they have ways to get guys, and it's a nice way to have celebrations. And I was thinking about this today. You know, as these players are getting older, and unfortunately some of them are passing us by, we're starting to lose some of the history that we've been so lucky to capture. And it's time to honor these guys even more than we do now. You know, last year when we had the 72 World Series team, that was awesome. Having the streak team and getting to honor them, even though it's only been 20 years, that was an unbelievable day. And I think by doing sort of a wall of honor, we're doing the Hall of Fame already, but another way that we can sort of just bring these guys in and talk about them and keep the history alive. I mean, you know, from the 70s teams now, from the everyday type players, you know, losing Catfish, Ray, Sal, Angel Manguel. We've already lost Hendu, Tony Phillips, Bob Welch from the late 80s. We got to do our best to honor these guys and keep their memories alive.
You mentioned what's the Giants one called?
I think it's the Wall of Fame. Is it the Wall of Honor? Wall of something like that.
Yeah, because I remember when at the winter meetings, Aaron Judge talked about the big thing for him going to the Giants would be being on that wall next to Marvin Bernard and Hunter Pence. Like that would be his dream, being on that wall with those guys.
Yeah, it was funny. What the Giants did do is they kind of made the requirements. They made it fit to whoever they want to put into the wall, right? It's like, we need to get Rich Aurelia on there. Okay, so we need 2 all-star appearances, and you hit 30 home runs once. Perfect, you're on the wall.
Yeah, you don't want that monument next to Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and Reggie Jackson and Derek Jeter. We're going to put you on that wall out there in McCovey Cove next to Marvin Bernard. That's going to be it.
Marvin Bernard. Marv.
No offense. Moving on. By the way, as we were down at fantasy camp where Cody and I are kind of excited to go back to Arizona. It's warm. It's nice. Get out of, it's been freezing and raining here. I'm just, you know what? Starting pitching, there's a bunch of it. There's bullpen. Got some guys going to be battling for positions. Just where are you with this A's team with some excitement about spring training versus last year? You knew there was zero excitement at spring training.
I'm excited because I think we have more major league players now, right? Jace Peterson and Amadis Diaz. These are major league players. And everybody loves the kids and the potential and everything, but to be competitive on the ball field, you need major leaguers. And I think the A's have helped that by bringing in major leaguers, getting Mays in the bullpen. That's a legitimate pitcher. I'm very excited about him and what he can do to that bullpen. So I think they've improved themselves that way. Yes, they have a lot of starting pitching options, right? Some we don't know about. What will Fuji be? We hope he's going to be what everyone tells us that he's capable of doing, but we have to see it. And some of the pitchers we got from the Braves, and that's never worked out quite right, getting prospects or pitchers from the Braves for whatever reason. So you hope those guys can work out. There's some excitement there. So I think it's a better team right now as we sit on January 23rd, 2023, as opposed to the team that we're pretty sure we were going to have. Remember we had the lockout going on, so we didn't know. But once spring training started, we got jet set at everybody. This is a better team than that team.
Yeah, last night. So there's a show on Sirius XM on the baseball channel with all of their ex-GMs called The Front Office. It runs on Sunday morning. I caught it last night. And Jim Bowden and Dan Duquette were on the show, and they were talking about, okay, what's the future of baseball? And they were taking phone calls, and a caller called up and said, what about a salary cap? And what about that? And Jim Bowden immediately cut up. There's never going to be this. There's never going to be that. And he really just explained, as someone who's been a GM at one point for the Cincinnati Reds, saying where we are in today's baseball is that the smaller revenue teams, you're going to have windows because you're going to build up prospects. You're going to have drafts. And when you have your window, that's when you go for it. And then when that window's closing for multiple reasons, you start it all over again. But when you have that window, that's when you got a chance to play against the higher revenue teams and really chance to win that World Series. I mean, the way he explained it is far better than I am right now as a man who's done it. But Yeah, we had our window. We had our 4-year window, 3 out of 4 years in the playoffs. The 1 year the A's didn't go to the playoffs, won 86 games, highly respectable. And now you're in that time where it's time to remake it again. And people and he goes, this is always going to be the case for Pittsburgh and for Tampa and for Oakland. He goes, it's just the way it's going to be. So, I mean, you accept it. And I know fans hate to hear it, but even teams that spend gobs of money cannot be good. So it's just like you got to build up for those times and cherish those times that you're good. We're in that process of climbing that mountain again.
We are. I think for A's fans, I think they understand it. I think they see that the A's have closed the window the last couple of years, maybe a year early, right? After 2014, did they have to trade Josh Donaldson? No, but they closed the window early. Last year, did they have to trade Olsen and Chapman right then? No, they had another year they could have gone. So I think that gets a little frustrating. When you have that window, you want to keep it open for as long as you can. I think the A's have closed it a little short the last 2 times. Could have kept it open longer. So this ramp up, this is a tough one. Right? Because the cupboard was bare. There was nobody coming. And they had to go out and they made all these trades and they picked up all these prospects trying to retool the farm system. And you hope you hit. You hope you hit on maybe a third of them. And some other guys surprise you and then they take a role. Maybe somebody like Connor Capel, who you picked up late in the year, and you said, well, maybe this guy can actually hit in the big leagues. This could be a player. You hope you hit on a couple of those and the pitching. I mean, it all comes down to, can pitching keep you in games? Do these young pitchers keep you in games? But you're basing a lot on hope right now. But what Jim Bowden said, that is very true. It's not the consistency, because you can't buy your way out of mistakes. Big market teams or big revenue teams can buy their ways out of mistakes. They can spend all this money. They can spend $300 million on a player. And if it doesn't work out, well, that's okay. We'll go spend $200 million on this other guy. The A's can't make any sort of mistakes like that, and there are a lot of teams in the A's situation. So that's what makes it tougher, is you can't buy your way out of mistakes.
Yeah, and this is a year where you never know. You know, there's always those times where teams can shock you. It is possible. The why not us theory.
Yeah, I look at the A's, and I look at their pitching staff and what we saw last year, and you go, Danny Jimenez, if he can be healthy, he was an effective closer, late inning reliever. Zach Jackson, when he could throw strikes, yeah, this is a guy who's a tough. He's a tough for major league hitters. He's heavy ball. He's got to throw strikes, but he's tough to hit. Okay, so that's pretty good. If Trevor May, if he fills in there, okay, this is going to be pretty good. So there's this chance. And what we saw from guys like J.P. Sears, oh, yeah, this could be a major league pitcher. And Ken Waldichuk, he looks like he'd be a major league pitcher. So there is that possibility to surprise, because there is some ability there. Does it all come together and does it all work out? We saw it in 2012. We saw it all happen. We saw a team win the AL West with nothing but rookie pitchers, and it worked. Of course, they had Yoenis Cespedes. They had an offensive linchpin, and that's what this team would need. They would need someone to step up and be that great offensive player. I'm not sure who that is. Does Seth Brown take a big jump and become just an impact player with the bat? I mean, again, all possible. You can't really count on it, though. You just hope that it happens.
I want to leave you with this, because I've been thinking about this, and I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this. In a world where we feel we have to sign everybody to these crazy contracts now, we're going to make them super long so we can circumvent the luxury tax year from now and all that kind. There's one team who literally operates the way they want to operate. They don't care how you feel about it. They don't care what their fan base thinks. They don't care what the national perception of them. They don't care. They're going to do it their way. That's the Houston Astros. The Houston Astros have said, okay, Garrett Cole, you're going to get what? See ya. Carlos Correa, we're going to be happy if you sign it. Oh, you don't want that? Okay, see you later. Verlander just won the American League Cy Young Award winner in the World Series. They said, okay, bye. They offer these contracts, and if you'll take them, that where they feel comfortable, like Altuve and Bregman. Brantley's going to be back, but they just realize we're going to operate this way, and our fan base, their local media, the national media, no one's going to tell them how to do it. And sometimes they look like the bad guys, but you know what? At some point we have to respect the fact that they do it their way. It's worked. I mean, a couple World Series titles, 6 straight ALCSs, but they have done it their way.
They have. And again, this was a team that hit rock bottom in 2012 and 13, right? This was a terrible team, and they drafted wisely and made smart moves. And I think about it this way. Yordan Alvarez was a trade with the Dodgers for a middling reliever that was nothing. And Yordan Alvarez is now Willie McCovey. You had Carlos Correa. Again, like you said, they offered him a contract. He turns it down. They move on, and they replace him with Jeremy Pena. Again, good drafting, good signing. This is a smart organization. This is a homegrown organization that just sort of adds to what they got, and they make smart moves. They signed Ryan Stanek last year, basically for $1.5 million. Anybody had him in their bullpen. They made that move, and he was key to that bullpen. Getting Ryan Presley, noticing him with the Twins, right? They liked his curveball, they liked his breaking ball. They said, you know what? That's an exceptional pitch. He can close with that. We're going to bring him in, and he's going to close for us. This is smart moves. They're not breaking the bank. I mean, if they resign all their guys, they're going to have to, but they let Correa go. It'll be interesting to see going forward. You're right. This has been a model organization. And even this year, right? They lose Gurriel, and they're going to replace him with Jose Abreu, who's just nothing but a run producer. Come on. That's a brilliant, smart move.
And didn't break the bank. They're not. They will never get trapped in Xander Bogaerts 11 years, $300 million.
Yeah,
not going to happen. Like it's not there. That's not. And the funny thing, it's like we talked to some of our friends in Houston. Like fans could be like, "Why don't we sign Carlos Correa?" They go, "No, we're letting him go. We got this other kid."
And you start to
It's
trust.
shrewd. It's shrewd.
And you trust your organization when they have this track record. I think a lot of what the A's did in the 2000s was trust in Billy Beane, that he knew what he was doing, and they had that long run, right? Even, if you look from 2000 through 2006, this was a very successful team with a lot of smart moves, a lot of moving pieces, because you trusted the people in charge. The Astros, people trust who's in charge.
He can hear you right now. He's in the background as our A's historian. Joe Rudi is next. I know you're a big fan of him growing up watching the A's. Talk about the greatness that is about the Oakland A's Hall of Famer, Joe Rudi.
Joe Rudi, again, another one of those players who, when you look at the MVP votings in the early 70s, he was in the talk. He was in the race because he came through hit after hit. And he was defensively, this was a guy who was struggled a little bit in the outfield, got under the tutelage of Joe DiMaggio, and became a Gold Glove winning outfielder. Then the A's asked him to move to first base because Claudio Washington was going to play. And Joe Rudi moved to first base and was just as good a defensive first baseman as anybody in the league and never complained about it, at least not to any media or made a big thing about it. He did his job. And again, when you have these great teams with these huge personalities, having rocks on your team like Sal Bando and Joe Rudi and Gene Tenace, that's what makes winners.
Good stuff, my friend. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, Townie.
The great David Feldman joining us. Of course, David Feldman, NBC, Pac-12 Network, official scorer, and one of our A's historian right here. But you heard it. The resume is as good as it gets. 3-time World Series champion, 3-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glove winner. He's in the A's Hall of Fame. The great Joe Rudi from Florida is joining us. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know heavy hearts because Sal Bando, your captain, meant so much to you and your teammates.
Very long time friend, met him early in our career, came up, he signed in 66, same year I think Reggie did, out of Arizona State, and came right through the ranks, AA, AAA. In a couple of years, he was starting third base when we moved to Oakland in 68, and he was a rock. I mean, he played 162 games, I don't know how many years in a row, and just a great man, great family man, wonderful family, We used to live close to each other out in Danville with, Gene Tenace and Bando and Fosse. All of us were out there together, rode the ballpark every day. I actually roomed next door with Sal and Gene Tenace were roommates, and we had an adjoining room. So for years I roomed with them, and we hung out and did everything together.
Yeah, Gene Tenace was on earlier with us, and he was talking about classic wrestling matches between these two guys. And I was thinking, wow, these are two bulls in a china shop going after it.
I tell you what, nobody screwed with Bando. A little story: when we were a little bit younger down in Florida, I think our last year in spring training, we had 2 queen beds, and we were all in there, but probably 10 of us just yakking and talking and stuff. And Sal was laying on the bed with his hands behind his shoulder. And I don't know what possessed me. We must have had a few beers. I jumped on him, just jumped right on top of him like this, right? Landed on his chest. And he goes, I can't repeat the words he said, but he literally picked me up on my chest right here and went wham and threw me on the other bed. And after that, nobody messed with Bando. I mean, the guy was a bull. Just crazy.
And the consistency, what David Feldman just said, like here you have big personalities, great talent, but you got to have consistent personalities to go with the kind of loose cannons and guys who show up every single day. You got to have this unbelievable mixture, and a guy like yourself and a guy like Joe Rudi and a guy like Gene Tenace, you had to have the stable guys, the consistent guys to really be the glue of the club.
Well, we were very, really fortunate during that from, say, 70 through 76. We never had any major injuries to our basic group. And I count the pitchers and the starting lineup there, about 15 guys, other than Reggie getting hurt in 72 right before the World Series.
Yeah.
We were very fortunate that none of our main pitchers ever went out with a bad arm. We didn't lose any of our really everyday players. And we just, all sort of grew up together. We all signed in the early 60s to mid 60s, had great coaching along the way. Of course, Dick Williams coming on in 71 was, to me, the really turning point of playing really sound fundamental baseball. And again, Sal was the enforcer. He was our captain. He went to, I can't even tell you how many times he went to the bull, out to the mound with different pitchers, especially Rollie Fingers, and talked about how to pitch this guy. This is how we're playing him, because we, even back then, we had our own little version of shifts and how we played guys. And Sal was the one that was he knew all that.
It kind of gets lost with you guys and really in baseball history, because we know you're in Kansas City and you're young. We know you start winning in 71 and then the World Series 72, 73, 74. But there's this move where you go from Kansas City to Oakland. It's a major change. You have a franchise moving from the Midwest to the West Coast. It's craziness. You guys are young. There hasn't really been a whole lot really just about that transitional period that must have been kind of crazy in your guys' life.
Well, it was a great move for me because I grew up just outside of Modesto, went to high school in Modesto, and had all our family and friends from high school for my wife and I both. And so I loved it, of course, moving out there. But it was a big move, and we were really just at the beginning of the youth movement. We still had Danny Cater, Jim Gosger, a lot of the Phil Roof, a lot of the older players that I would call at the time over 30. And of course, when you're 19, 20 years old, anybody 30 years old, you thought they had one foot in the grave. So we, literally in the middle of the year when we started getting everybody out there, Monday in center, Reggie and right, me there, and Sal, Campy, Greeny, I think our average on the field age was 22. In 68 at times, since we had such a young team with, Catfish and Blue Moon and all those guys. Very, very young team. Of course, we got our brains beat in a little bit in 67, 68, 69. I think 70 was really our first beginning to, I think, a winning season, if I remember right, maybe 1970. And then, like I said, Dick coming in there and not forcing us, but teaching us how to play fundamental small ball, moving a guy over, getting him in with a fly ball, knowing not making mental errors on defense and et cetera, et cetera. And, he just really put us over the top. And as I said, Sal was the rock in the middle of all that. And he just, like I said, he sort of kept peace with that wild clubhouse.
Yeah, Feldy just talked about how one of the biggest things for Dick Williams was his relationship with Sal. And the fact that Sal bought in helped everybody else buy into Dick Williams.
Absolutely. No question. No, I know Sal spent a lot of hours in Dick's room there when he was managing, talking about things and bringing Dick up to speed and a lot of different people, because Sal knew everybody. Because again, he'd come up from 66 through the minors, play with the guys, got there with the rest of us really early. And so he knew everybody, knew the personalities, knew people that would do well in certain circumstances, etc. So he was, like I said, he was the cornerstone of our team. Him and Catfish, I would say, were the two main characters that really were the glue that kept that team together.
Yeah, we were talking to your other teammate earlier, Rollie Fingers, and when Rollie thought back of it, when he was thinking back on it, he was talking about it was his first year there, and you guys were voting on captain, and for Rollie, it was like, well, of course it's going to be that guy. Was it that just everybody in the room was like, hey, we're going to vote for a captain? Well, of course we're voting for that guy.
Yeah, I mean, he was the captain, whether you wanted to make it official or not. I mean, he was the basic, like I said, he was the rock, he was the center, pretty much kept a lid on a lot of things. You get 25 or 30 young men with those egos together for 6, 7, 8 months. It's like a family. You're going to have fights. You're going to have interaction with people. And Sal, I think, did a tremendous job behind the scenes, wasn't in the paper, of keeping the lid on there, keeping people, focused on what we're doing, where we're going. When we cross the white lines, all that crap goes out the window.
I got to tell you, I wish I would have got to cover your team. I would have loved to have seen it. I would have loved to have seen your team with social media, with more media. Can you imagine the fun we all would have had with you guys?
Oh my God, we'd all been in jail.
There's
what,
there is so much we don't really know. I mean, only you guys, like the internal group, really know everything, because there's been books, but I've got a feeling we probably don't even know half of everything that went on.
They haven't scratched the surface. What took place on bus rides and plane rides, and little few too many drinks, flying charter at times back then. You walk on an airplane and the stewards are standing there with a tray of drinks, and guys just reach over and grab a handful and put them in the pocket, go back and start playing cards. And, after a few hours of that, some lively conversations and things happen in the back of the bus and the plane at the time.
No doubt. And, I just wonder how much was Sal the influence, not only for some of the players, especially as younger players would come up, was he the influence off the field, but also help guys, on the field, but also help guys off the field?
Oh, absolutely. No, like I said, we all lived out together, and he was always, like I said, he played almost every game, rarely missed a game. And as new guys came and went, we'd help them with where to live, talk about different issues that were going on. And he was just, like I said, he was the center of our team, just like Catfish was the center of the pitching staff. When we lost Catfish, it was so huge that people don't realize what he meant to that team. And losing, fortunately, we didn't lose Sal until we all left.
Well, I've been asking everybody this, and I'm assuming you're going to have the same answer. Not really surprised that when it was all said and done with his career that he ended up going into the front office.
Oh, no, he was so in tune with everything that was going on. Again, I think, he spent a lot of time with Dick Williams and the managers that came in after him, and Alvin Dark and Chuck, that they relied on him tremendously, especially early on how to handle certain people, personalities, all that type of stuff. And so he was really on the inside of a lot of the stuff going on. And like you said, I was not surprised at all that he stayed in baseball and became the general manager over there in Milwaukee, and did a great job, really, when you look at the record they had with what they had to work with.
You know, the great Ray Fosse would always grill into me about your guys' teams. He'd go, Townie, it's all about pitching and defense. We were so sound pitching and defense. And I think about in today's game where we are with this A's team that's heading to spring training, we're not going to out-homer anybody. We're not going to outscore anybody. But what could give this team a legitimate chance to be competitive, like you guys started to become in the late 60s into the early 70s, was pitching and defense. If you can pitch and you can play D and you don't give up extra outs and you throw quality pitches, you got a shot to compete.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about. And, it was a different game back then. The Coliseum was totally different. I could count on one hand the balls that were hit out at night, dead center. You couldn't hit the ball out of that ballpark back in there, 68 through 70, 72 in those years because the air was so heavy. And, we'd have clouds coming in at night going through the lights and stuff. You don't see that stuff. I went back and coached 86, 87. By then it had already stopped. And so, again, going back to the basic fundamentals, there's so many teams today that are all swinging from the fences. And so to me, if you don't have those kind of players, you got to go back to the basics, getting the guy on, button them over, score those runs whenever you get the opportunity instead of, getting somebody on and you're just sitting there hoping that somebody's going to hit a home run. If you got those kind of players that are going to do that consistently, that's different. But if you don't, then you got to go back to pitching and defense.
One of the great stories about your career is becoming a terrific outfielder and learning from Joe DiMaggio. And what you try and tell people is that Joe DiMaggio wasn't a star baseball player. He was an American icon. He was a celebrity. He was, when you think of what celebrities and icons are today, that's what he was back in those days. He just wasn't Joe DiMaggio, the baseball player. He was an American icon. And now all of a sudden he's wearing the same uniform you're wearing. He's from the Bay Area and he's coaching you. I mean, at any point where you're like, man, I got Joe DiMaggio working with me.
Joe was so much different than the persona that was in the papers or that people didn't know him. When he was around the players, he was just one of the guys. He was funny. He'd give you a hot feed on the bus if you fell asleep. I mean, he was great. And like I said, I came out of high school. I signed right out of high school, got to the big leagues in a couple of years. I never played the outfield until a year before I got in the big leagues. And so I had no background on playing the outfield. And so fortunately in 68, when we moved to Oakland, I got called up. Actually, the first game in the Coliseum was the night Catfish pitched the perfect game against Minnesota. And so, they just took me under his wing. And every day I'd go out there and Bob Kennedy was our manager. He and Joe decided they were going to make me an outfielder. And Bob, every day, no matter if we had a doubleheader, after a night game, I had to do a half an hour of fly balls out there. And Joe was out there teaching me the footwork, how to turn your back on the ball and run to a spot, and the ball would be there. And when I first started doing that, I'd run back, turn, the ball would be 50 feet the other direction. I just had no clue, but, they were very patient. And it was like getting your doctorate in how to play the outfield. It was, I was just so blessed that he was there during those years.
Well, it seemed to work out pretty good for you in the outfield.
Man, I never ever stopped taking fly balls.
Well, let's end on this. How's everything in Florida? You still playing a lot of golf?
I play 3 or 4 days a week at least, and I got my wife starting to play at age 68. Now she's a golfaholic. She loves it. And there's so many courses here in this place called the Villages, Florida, which is just north of Orlando. It's a paradise for seniors. I swear they took everything they did in Disney World and fashioned it for us over here. And, it's been growing like crazy here, but we have so many, almost 60 different types of golf courses. And so you can get out, play every day, everything from par threes to, the championship courses. And we've really enjoyed being here. The weather's great too.
Well, congratulations on everything. An amazing life, an amazing career. We always appreciate the time. It was great having you on last year, and I know we had the great chat when I was doing NBC, and we look forward to having you on again this season and just bringing the wealth, the knowledge, and the history that you bring to our program. And thank you so much for stopping by to remember your great friend, Sal Bando.
Yeah, he was a great guy, a great friend, and can be sorely missed. And we'll be having our reunion again, I think, middle of April back up there for the 73 team. It's going to be a big hole not having him there.
Well, we look forward to talking to you then again. Thank you, Joe. You be well.
You too. Thank you. God bless.
The great Joe Rudi. That was really, can you imagine Joe DiMaggio as your coach? I mean, they have songs after him. He was Mr. Coffee. He was like, literally, if they do like your Q rating, he was like I mean, he was married to Marilyn Monroe. You can't really compare what today versus then because everything's so different now. But when you're like this American icon, is there a sports figure right now who's an American icon that it's bigger than just sports and what you've done in the sport? You're an American icon. Like Muhammad Ali was an American icon. Like certain guys they're bigger than their sport. They're bigger. They're just bigger. I don't know much about soccer, but Pele on the world, like Pele was a bit who we recently lost. Pele was a star among stars. Do we have anybody like that today?
If I had to pick one, maybe Michael Jordan.
Oh yeah. I'm saying today though. Do we have?
Currently?
Yeah, Michael Jordan. Yeah, Michael Jordan.
I don't. Brady.
Yeah. Oh, they have a movie coming out.
Yeah, that's true. What is it, 80 for Brady?
Brady or LeBron?
Those would be the two.
But don't say LeBron in the Bay Area because everybody will get angry.
Yeah. Those will probably be the two. I don't know. I think I don't know. Maybe it's just because of the bubble we live in, but I think Steph Curry's pretty big the last couple of years.
Subway commercials don't make you an American
icon. Well, the Family Man, the TV shows he's had.
Most people don't.
But yeah, it'll probably be LeBron and Tom
He's
Brady.
got a long way to go.
It'd be those two. I would say. I don't think there's anyone else. There's no one in hockey. There's no one in baseball currently.
No. Shohei Ohtani is a world.
Yeah, he's a world icon.
Well, in Asia, he's huge in Japan. And he's big here. He's big here and big in Japan. When you're big in two different countries, Shohei, like if Shohei continues to do this, which that will be the remark. Here's the big question. You want to pay him $800 million a year. Everybody wants to pay him. He's worth, endless amount.
Everyone keeps saying it's going to start with 5.
He's $1 billion. How long is he going to do this?
That's the $1 billion question.
$1 million question.
We'll go billion. $1 million's not a lot of money. Like they tell you in Austin Powers, $1 million is a lot of money anymore.
That's Austin Powers.
The $1 billion. It's $1 billion question because if you want to sign him to a 10-year deal, you're going to keep him until he's close to 40. He's not going to probably pitch and hit up until he's 40.
We don't know. We don't know. That'd be pretty incredible.
It would be because I don't think we'll see another guy like this for a while.
People didn't think Nolan Ryan was going to be going until 46, and he did. But yeah,
or Tom Brady going as well, as long as he did.
How old is Tom Brady? Right,
45.
45. You mean Raider quarterback Tom Brady?
I don't know. I keep hearing 49er quarterback Tom Brady.
Raider. They already got 5 quarterbacks.
Yeah. Well, as soon as if they lose, it's going to be like, well, Brady's coming here. They'll be right. They have like 5 quarterbacks. Yes.
So. Yeah, Ohtani has the capability to. He probably already is the biggest baseball
player. Yeah. I would say yes.
But he's got a lot. Like he's not a household name. I walk into my house. I walk into my house.
I don't think we have that in baseball right now.
No, we don't have a Joe DiMaggio.
Okay, I can't. Mine's a bad example because my wife's an Angels fan. And she likes baseball. But I walk to a house.
Trout is not.
Yeah, but she would. But I'm saying, like, if you walk in, if you ask our friends, hey, who's your favorite baseball player? They'd be like, I don't even know who's even playing.
They don't watch it.
Or they'll say Buster Posey because they're Giants fans. Well, he's not playing anymore. So
he's not an American icon.
Yeah, no.
But he won 3 World Series. Oh, God. Just think of the people he used to work with. He's the greatest player of all time because he won 3 World Series. Well, if this guy is so great in the Hall of Fame, why are we putting in Bernie Williams, Paul O'Neill? Why aren't these guys going to go in the Hall of Fame?
Jorge Posada is a pretty good catcher.
These guys, if you're going to use the Buster Posey as an argument, let's start bringing up these guys and what they did in the game.
Well, we always talk about it. And
Sal Bando. Let's bring up all the A's who won 3 World Series. Let's bring them up. If your whole credentials about Buster Posey is the 3 World Series, we got plenty of those guys.
Yeah, there's so many guys you can go through. Not just in baseball, sports overall. In baseball,
And you do not want to go over Buster Posey's postseason numbers.
No, not great. Well,
they're awful. But he led the pitching staffs.
Bumgarner should be Bumgarner's a whole.
Oh, stop.
First ballot.
Stop. Bumgarner's would be lucky if he's pitching this year.
Is he still with the Diamondbacks?
Yeah. They haven't got rid of him yet.
I wonder where Torrey's going to slot him into the rotation at.
You know what I did yesterday? And I was a little disappointed. And I don't know if I jumped the gun. So last night, went to Costco, not far from where we live. And right next to the Costco on Almond Expressway, there's a Barnes & Noble. So I went, you know what, I'm going to sneak in there real quick. It was like right before closing. And none of the baseball magazines are out yet. Have I jumped the gun? Is it too early?
Probably February. I don't know. I haven't.
Streets and Smith, Athlon, none of them. There was just the Athlon fantasy baseball magazine is the only one that's out.
That's what's going to be. That's what's popular. If you're going to look, I mean, I couldn't tell you last time I bought a magazine. And if I did,
well, I know, but I'll buy it and it's got information. I'll get the show topics out of it.
Yeah, I think the fantasy one's all you're going to see for a while. Probably till sometime.
So I've jumped the gun.
Yeah, I'd look in like 2 weeks.
Even my sports weeklies, usually they start going through every organization, starting from worst to first. I thought I'd have that by now, where the A's were going to be up there pretty quick.
Yeah, then you said there's nothing.
We haven't seen it yet.
We're
still talking about Correa.
We're still fixated on the NFC Championship game and LeBron.
Who's in that game? It's baseball season. I'm not paying attention to that. When the Eagles are going to roll the Niners. You're not beating the Eagles in Philly.
It's going to be tough.
Fly, Eagles, fly. I told you.
I was wrong. By the way, I was wrong about Danny
God.
Dimes. Danny Dimes. What
This
happened?
guy. Don't listen. He knows nothing about football. He knows nothing. He was telling you Danny Dimes was going to go into Philly. What's the name of their stadium again?
The Link.
The Link. Lincoln Financial. And take down the Eagles. The number 1 seed, probably best overall football team in football. Danny Dimes laid an egg.
Their whole
laid
team
an egg.
That was embarrassing.
You should call Joey Dimes went in there to Buffalo and took care of business.
Did you?
Who predicted Cincinnati over Buffalo on this program?
You did. Did you see what he said after the game?
In his fur coat, what?
They asked him. They said, "So a lot of people were talking about neutral site AFC Championship game." Chiefs, Bills, and you guys run in there and change it. He goes, well, they better issue a lot of refunds then.
Kid's got guts. The
guy's a winner. He won at LSU.
He won a national championship. He's been to a Super Bowl, and he's about to go to another one. The game.
Wow, writing Patrick Mahomes off already, huh?
Yes. Patrick Mahomes limping around.
Hey, that was the most, that was a heroic effort by Patrick Mahomes yesterday.
Bigger than Brody Brazil.
I'm going to take Brody.
Mm-hmm. Brody Brazil right now, if you do not know, the great Brody Brazil is the leader for the 2023, early leader in great comebacks. So get it. Tell Brody he's going to have to be in Vegas for the All-Star break for the ESPY Awards. Because right now, Brody's going to be a nominee for what he did at Fantasy Camp.
He would, if not, he's going to at least get a recognition for the NBC Sports Bay Area and California awards.
Because let me tell you something. Everybody down there was ready to clown on him. Everybody was burying him. Not us. We would never bury our guy Brody. They were going to bury him. They have pictures of his hamstring blowing out. He's hurt. Stu's on him. Shooty's on him. They're going to kill him on A's pre- and post-game live. And all he did was come back and drive in some runs.
All he did was come back and hit.
That's all he did. What does he do? What's Brody Brazil's skill?
He can hit.
He hits. Bad wheel and all. So, take that, Dave Stewart. Take that, Shooty Babbitt. Comeback player of the year, Brody Brazil. Book it. At least a nominee.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, though, let's do this one more time. Remember, starting tomorrow, Ace Spirit Week ticket deals will kick off tomorrow, as I said, with a buy one, get one free offer on opening day tickets. The A's open the 2023 season at home on Thursday, March 30th for Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, and the Angels. Additional A's Spirit Week deals include discounted ticket prices for select A's promotional days, including drone and firework nights, tickets that include a chance to watch batting practice from the field, and fee-free tickets. On Saturday, January 20th, that's this Saturday, tickets for all regular season games go on sale. But catch us Friday, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. at Plank in Oakland, Jack London Square. Plank.
Can't wait for Plank. Plank's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've been there. So we'll go bowling.
I've done multiple shows there.
I've done the one.
Yeah, it's a great location.
I've gone bowling there a few times, but I've done the one show with you there.
We're going to have fun. Happy hour. Did you ever figure out who created happy hour?
I did, actually.
There is a person who's been credited.
The phrase happy hour started around 1914 when the United States Navy would have a weekly happy hour for sailors. These original happy hours weren't about drink deals and half-off apps. They were a way for the Navy sailors to relieve the boredom of their postings.
1914, happy hour started with the Navy.
So there you go. I don't know. There's not a person, but we can credit the United States Navy.
Yeah. Better than just some schmuck in New York at some bar. It's the United States Navy, our proud Navy.
Did they win the Army-Navy game? Who won the Army-Navy game this year?
I believe Army did.
They've been pretty good the last couple of years.
It's one of the great games every year.
Army won by 3.
Yeah.
Down here for Navy, 4-8. Army went 6-6.
Didn't have anything on that game. Didn't have anything on that game.
Usually, it's a good game to watch, though. And I pulled up the 76 A's that Feldy was talking about. That team had 3 guys steal 50 bases or more. One guy, Billy North, stole 75. I mean, Larry Lintz only had 4. He only had 1 at bat, but he stole 31 bases.
On Friday, are we Friday at Plank?
Friday at Plank, 4 p.m.
We're gonna have people are gonna have to make some tough calls on this NFC title game. Are you gonna go against the San Francisco 49ers? Will you, knowing a lot of A's fans or San Francisco 49er fans, are you gonna go against our own people?
I hope they go in and roll Philly. I can't stand Philadelphia. Nothing will make me happier than watch Hembo and everyone in Philadelphia suffer.
Ooh. And then you want 2 weeks to listen to Niner fans for Super Bowl?
It's better than listening to 2 weeks of Philly fans.
You can just turn that off, but you have to live amongst these Niner people.
That's true. There are a lot of Niner fans in my apartment building.
I mean, when I was laughing yesterday, where were the Raiders? I went, because I got Cowboy buddies or Cowboy fans, and so I was ripping where are the Raiders? I mean, well, if that's the best you got. The best you got is bringing up Raiders when your Dak Prescott makes $31 million. Think about that. Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Cowboys, makes $31 million, and his team scored 12 points. Let me ask you a question. Was it snowing yesterday in Santa Clara?
No.
Was it minus whatever and wind chilled whatever?
No.
Was it raining in Santa Clara?
No.
I played golf before the game yesterday. Didn't feel anything. I played golf. How the hell are you a $31 million quarterback with offensive players and a good line, and all you put up is 12 stinking points minus the missed PAT? 12 points, that's all you got? You're trying to tell me if you had a great quarterback, just go down the line. Brady, Manning, Montana, Elway, Marino, Favre, Steve Young, Troy Aikman. You have any of these guys?
Roethlisberger.
Lenny Dawson.
Phillip Rivers.
I'll give you.
I was going to say Eli Manning. All he does is win.
Take any of these. Roger Staubach.
Terry Bradshaw.
You could have Roger Staubach at 70. What is he now in his 70s?
Yeah.
He'd score more than 12 points.
What about TB12?
I meant Brady was first.
No. The original TB12, Terry Bradshaw.
Yeah. I mean, any of these really good to great quarterbacks. I know everybody I mentioned Favre. Everybody I mentioned is a Hall of Famer. I get it.
What about Trent Dilfer and Brad Johnson? They won Super Bowls.
I may say Brad Johnson. I don't know about Dilfer. Brad Johnson, the big dude out of Florida State. You're making what a Super Bowl quarterback makes. $31 million a year?
Yes.
Dak Prescott is paid at a level of a Super Bowl Hall of Fame quarterback. And in a game, San Francisco has a phenomenal defense. San Francisco has a great roster. I don't care. You think Peyton Manning only puts up 12 points?
I'll give you a better one. What about Antonio Ramiro Romo? You know him as Tony. Would he have done a better job?
He was a gag beast, too, in big games.
That's true. Dallas has had a good quarterback since Aikman.
But they pay these dudes like they're Hall of Famers.
Patrick Mahomes puts up those points. Joe Burrow does.
Joe Burrow went into snow in Buffalo.
Yeah.
You are in no snow, no adverse weather. You're in Santa Clara, and you can't put up more than 12 points?
How about the final play? Do you remember the final play?
Well, how about almost getting hit for the safety before that?
What
is going on?
I just remember the Zeke play where Zeke lined up at center on the final play of the game. That's your final play of the game? Your running back?
It was done anyway. Who cares? I know Twitter went nuts after that. I don't get it.
All I know is Brock Purdy wins.
I'm just going to say this. Early notes for me are I'm liking Philly. Just saying. Early notes for me, Philly.
I got to see what the status of Christian McCaffrey is. Apparently he has a calf injury. He always has something.
Of course. Why do you think they traded him? Folks, if a guy's always hurt, guess what? You get him, you think all of a sudden he becomes Cal Ripken?
Brett Favre?
AC Green. Doesn't AC Green have the in the NBA record for most games played?
Yeah, I think so. Peyton is Favre and is it Eli Manning? I think Eli was up there too.
So when you got a guy who's always hurt and then you trade for him and then he gets hurt, don't be shocked. I might go home favorite. I haven't even seen the spreads. I might go home favorite and your guy Joey Dimes.
Let's see. Do they have it up yet? Eagles 2.5. This is according to Yahoo Sports. Eagles 2.5 point favorite over under 45.5. Bengals 1.5 point favorite at Kansas City.
What?
Yeah. How?
What?
They must be really worried about Mahomes' ankle.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So it says 1.5 point over under 47. Bengals minus 1.5.
How's that possible? But you know what? Long way to go. Long week.
It's Monday.
We were going to have Dan Feinstein on today, assistant general manager for the Oakland Athletics. We taped the interview, but obviously this was going to be a tribute show to the great Sal Bando. We will have Dan. It's fascinating. It's about the A's. He runs our, I don't have his official title in front of me right now, but he runs our international operation. So we will talk about all the scouts and dealing with all the scouts and all the people around the world that the A's have, whether it's the Pacific Rim, Australia, Latin America. We will have Dan on Wednesday to talk about Shintaro, to talk about the two big signees from Latin America. And
Darling and Luis Morales, I believe it was.
Morales and Darling.
It's okay.
We'll have it all for you on Wednesday, but it's a fascinating interview because it's international. You're running an international. We think of baseball as an American business. They operate as international businesses. So that will be on Wednesday. But today was all about remembering Joe Rudi, the captain of
Sal Bando.
Sal Bando. Remembering Sal Bando. I forgot to ask the question for Feldman. Has there ever been a captain of 3 straight World Series title teams?
I could text him and ask.
Because the last time the Yankees did it, Derek Jeter was not the captain.
I don't think they had a captain, right?
I don't think they had a captain.
You're telling me it wasn't Jorge Posada?
Wasn't Bernie. Wasn't any of those guys.
Wasn't Joe Girardi?
Nope.
Yeah, I could ask Feldman.
Certainly wasn't Paul O'Neill banging the water cooler. Great player, though. That will do it for A's Cast Live. We would like to thank Rollie Fingers, the Hall of Famer, Bob Melvin, manager of the Padres, but great friend to Sal Bando, Gene Tenace, our A's historian, David Feldman, and Joe Rudi, who is an Oakland A's Hall of Famer. We'd like to thank everybody for helping us celebrate the great life of Sal Bando. Captain Sal, rest in peace. We'll see everybody on Wednesday right here on A's Cast Live.
The Oakland Athletics begin spring training on February 25th. Now's the time to make plans to catch us in Mesa, Arizona, and enjoy the sunshine of your family and friends. Buy your tickets early for the best seats at the lowest prices, as